for AppSumo, mastering the game with industry-leading experts. I am your second host. You probably saw my good buddy Chris Cowden, who was killing it in the morning shift. I got the mid shift because I got that energy for the midday. And you're going to check out Mike in the end. Let me introduce myself. I am Phil Better, the podcast mogul. I am here to interview some legends and some industry experts. First off is the man who is the most uncaged boss in the world, S.A. Grant, who's going to be talking to us about what he does. So, Grant, how about you just quickly introduce yourself so that everybody knows who you are?
Well, first of all, I appreciate both of you guys bringing me on here. I mean, the way we all got kind of associated to each other in the overlapping circles was definitely a hell of a story that we can kind of talk about. I think it was first you and I had a connection and we interviewed each other, and then I put an AppSumo deal out, and then Chris was working for AppSumo at the same time, and then shortly thereafter that, he was telling me he was working with you, and essentially the rest is history. So I think that's just like one of those founding stories that you have to kind of know the roots and the breadcrumbs of where we are today, right? But who I am, I mean, I would just say I am a. The funny thing is, Oz just went off and he was talking about procrastination. No, he was talking about syndromes, right? He was talking about imposter syndrome, and I think that's a shirt that I should wear. I should get a shirt that says "I love my imposters," and I mean that plurally because I have like a personality disorder. And what I mean by that is like I had my hands in so many different pots in the early years. I was everything from a graphic designer, a web designer. I was into insurance. I was travel agent. I got my Series 6. Yeah, and I could keep going and all the different titles and positions that I had until unfortunately I burnt out and I was just burning my candlestick on both ends and I had a stroke. And once I had that stroke, that's when I came to the realization, okay, well, like I worked myself to death. What am I going to do moving forward? And fortunately for me, my wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, kind of sat me down, was like, okay, take the time to recover and then figure out what are you going to do. And she was saying, I think that maybe you should be the guy that comes from behind the curtain and steps in front of the camera. And so I looked at her and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So first, I'm going to marry you. And second of all, what am I going to be? Am I going to be a YouTuber or am I going to be a podcaster? And because I was kind of shy and bashful, believe it or not, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the latter. I'll become a podcaster. And looking back now, I've been podcasting since 2020, February. And what I've done in the last 3 years, considering what I'd done the 18 years before that, I'm like, damn, I should have done that to begin with. I should have been a podcaster from day one. I should have came out my mom's womb as a podcaster because that's where it is.
No, it's true. You are crushing it in the game, and like how we connected, first interviewing each other because you got the Boss Uncaged, an amazing podcast. You came over was a guest on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur podcast, and then Chris, the AppSumo, which we're here to talk. I do want to get into what was the first tool for AppSumo that you used?
The first tool was more so for hosting. So I could tell you, like, I forgot the name of the first one, but the second one that I bought was Bcast, and I've been with Bcast ever since. So that's my hosting platform. And if you're not familiar with it, it's something you should definitely look into.
Yeah, so I'm also I got the on AppSumo. That was probably this first or second thing I bought. Lifetime deal. The lifetime deals are phenomenal for podcasters, and we were talking just before we went live about like just the lifetime deals, how much it would cost you from AppSumo monthly, the subscription per month. Mm-hmm. And you said an astonishing figure. Do you want to just like go over about roughly how many tools you use?
I'm saying at this point in time, collectively, because again, the branch of what I do is not just podcasting. It's like this whole hemisphere, and people have been giving me the title of like empire builder. So I'm building all these different facets. So to answer your question, I'm about maybe 100 different apps. And if I had to run those apps on a monthly, I'm looking at several $1,000s per month if I was paying for each one of them. And again, it's not just the basic plan. Some of them are pro, some of them are elite, some of them are like the gold packages. So again, if I was paying that premium every single month, pretty much I'd have to run a separate business just to maintain the software, just to keep things up and running.
So, yeah, that's a lot. Like I can't even believe like what. Imagine the points you're getting on your credit card. First of all, if you were doing that monthly, that is some good points. But what is the tool you find you use the most for podcasting from AppSumo?
Wow. There's so many of them, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, Bcast is the first premium. There's some new ones that came out recently that I've got my hands on that I definitely love. I think you guys are probably interviewing one of the founders today, which is Cast Magic. I think that platform is a phenomenal platform. Another platform I actually got it up is a Magic Bookifier. It's another one that's just beautiful. If I can go back in time and get a larger deal on Missing Letter, that's another beautiful platform that runs off of RSS feeds. That's just off the top of my head. Oh yeah, QR code, qrcode.io. That like you can customize and build a limited QR codes. And if you ever seen any of my content, I QR code every damn thing. Like,
You
and
do.
again, I'm tracking everything as well. So,
We got a fan of Wave.video
mm,
in the chat, which is another great thing, and another lover of Cast Magic. And I believe we do have Cast Magic. Either we had them a little earlier, or they're going to be a little later in the stream. An amazing platform. We got to play around with it a little bit.
game changer.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking. I'm like, wow, and there's so many great tools that they have. If you check out AppSumo today, you can check out their podcast collection, and there's a whole bunch of the tools there that we're using. Did you start like obviously with your podcast growth? Yes, they're still on AppSumo. Ooh, according to Jeremy, some of them are still on AppSumo, which is awesome.
Get it?
Get them if you can right now.
And get the highest deal possible. That's the worst thing because I don't know if AppSumo knows, but there's a whole secondary market, like people like on the like the black internet that's selling all used programs from AppSumo that's not on AppSumo anymore. So that's how serious it is. Get the biggest one you could possibly get.
Oh yeah, no, that's always what I usually get because that's the one where you get the most bang for your buck, and it helps you out the most. Did you start off using SendFox, like one of their AppSumo originals,
Oh hell
for
yeah,
your email? Yeah. Do you
yeah. I
still
think
use it?
it still runs. I mean, I built the automation like in year one. So by default, like once automation is connected, that's the beautiful part about it. Is like you just have to check and verify to make sure the APIs are connected or you don't something's not broken. But as long as it's not broken, I'm still spitting out emails. And my first year, what I ended up doing was I went through all my I think I had 26 episodes and I went and made emails for each one of those episodes to then automatically send out when somebody logs in to get that backlog for 26 episodes over 26 weeks. So that's half a year of content that's automatically posted that I haven't touched in 3 years.
And then you just keep adding to it for the new episodes and that? Or
Yeah,
is it
well, I changed, the method, but yeah, I mean, now I have so many different automations on different platforms, all running all at the same time. So I look at it as much like if you're going to blanket the internet as far as social media, then you should be able to blanket like your databases as well too. I mean, I may find somebody from a book or I may interview someone from a podcast, or it may be a client. There's different areas that people want to talk about and different interests. So you have sub niches and sub emails and sub automation to manage all that for you.
I love that. I got Jeremy over here asking some great questions. And if you want to have some questions show up on the screen, please make sure you hit them in the chat. But if you could only get one, which would be a priority for a new podcast? Are we looking at Cast Magic, or Blackify text to speech? You're going with Cast Magic?
Yeah, period. Like I don't even care what the other options are. I'm gonna be frank. I don't care what the other options are. If you're a podcaster and you're not leveraging that platform, and if you don't even know what that platform does, I hate to say it, but I mean you're gonna stay up all night tonight, and then once this entire series of intellectual information is being delivered to you at midnight tonight, I want you to then go and take a look at that platform or stay on and listen to when they talk about it because it's a game changing platform.
What do you like so much about Cast Magic? What is it about Cast Magic that it just changes the game for you?
So if you know anything about AI, and I've had conversations with people and consult with them about AI before, about the prompts, and I think that's where people lose like the information that really the power behind AI is all in the prompts. So I can say, hey, give me a blog post about podcasting, or I can say, give me a post about podcasting, give me a quote, give me 10 lists, check items, give me a final takeaway, and put all of that in the prompt so that when it generates the information, it generates this quantity of information that's just glorious for you. The Cast Magic does that through your audio files. So imagine your actual podcast gets pulled into the system, and then within less than 5 minutes, it's stripping out based upon the prompts behind the scenes all the variable data that you will ever need for a podcast, at least for one episode.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I got to go play with it a bit more. I only got a few minutes on it when Chris got it for us, so I haven't had a chance to upload it in my episodes to see what kind of magic it can do. But I am definitely looking forward to using that. I want to talk because you mentioned earlier you got your hands in a lot of pies. You're very diversified. You got essay, you got the Boss Books, Box Uncaged podcast, all this, and you're building your empire. Why do you think the diversification is key to your growth strategy?
Well, I mean, by default, I mean that's the title I go under, right? As a growth strategist, so kind of you have to live in the space to understand the space. Now, obviously, I could have just stayed in podcasting, but everything I'm doing is still falling underneath the umbrella of growing podcasts, right? So, prime example: if I'm interviewing someone and I'm asking them a question about what books have they read, what books helped them on their journey, it took me about 6 months of asking that general question to realize that that's content that I could leverage somewhere else. So what I started doing was I started sampling all the audio files, getting them all transcripted, finding all the books, creating a database. So now we have an online book club that essentially is monetized. And we also have a book club for Boss Cage that's also on Facebook. That's a group of people in there as well. So again, segmentation of the original podcast. So am I really growing or am I just really optimizing all the different legs of one podcast? And that's the way I look at it. I'm optimizing the fruitful nature of what I'm doing in the podcast.
Genius with your growth strategy because you're hitting all those niches that are the sub niche of the main niche, and you're able to create your own silo so that people can start. Maybe they don't know about the Boss Uncaged podcast, but they've read maybe one of your blog posts on growth strategies or the book club or anything like that, and they slowly come into your silo, and then they're in your vertical going forward. Was this something you thought of when you first started your podcast, or was this something more that just came out of the time you were inside the world of podcasting?
I mean, I think it's always been in my nature. I mean, like originally, the reason why I wore all those hats because I wanted to understand the principles of those business to bring into my agency that I own, and I still own till this day. But I wanted to make sure that we at least had the understanding of what we were doing and why we were doing it. So I was kind of that person. Going back to the imposter syndrome shirt, I should wear it because I was okay. I need to understand insurance. I became an insurance agent. I need to understand the stock market and understanding trades and understanding leveraging and all this other stuff. Well, I'm going to go get my series license. I just went ahead and just did it to make sure I would understand it, which is all paying off now because when I'm talking on a podcast, all those different disciplines, they just come out of me like their second nature because I've been doing them long enough.
Oh, I love that. I love that strategy of being able to connect to your guests and also experts on a level that not many people can, because you have that basic understanding, and it's not just like, oh, I read one book. You actually did all the necessary hard work to become someone who is proficient in it.
Definitely.
Ooh, we got someone saying they love how you solve it by taking action, which is one of your big core principles, is taking action, right?
I mean, yeah, I was like, well, why hesitate? Why waste time? I mean, like that second of hesitation, something could have been achieved. And prime example is like people always talk about, well, why are you making sneakers? Like, why does Boston Cage have sneakers? And I'm just like, well, think about it from the standpoint of if imagine somebody buys a pair of shoes, right? My system is set up to where I can make a pair of shoes in 20 minutes flat and have it drop shipped in less than a month to someone. So why would I not make shoes? Like, why would I not design shoes to match the cover of my book and then have that book then match the logo branding of Boston Cage? And somebody sitting down in a coffee shop reading a Boston Cage book and wearing a pair of Boston Cage sneakers, and somebody's like, what the hell is that? And by default, all of them is all under one brand. So again, I'm synergizing the brand by creating all these different elements. And then somebody may come to me one day as a podcaster, which they have, and say, okay, hey, I want to start my merch store. Because that's one of the way you monetize a podcast. Well, I've done it at scale. Like we have like 600 products in one store.
600 products in your merch store.
Correct. And that's just me doing it in my downtime. Like I haven't really, like if I did it at scale, like, and I haven't really focused on it, but if I really just sit down and focus on it, like I would have products built through AI or automation around the clock all day, every day. Because again, like now that I understand AI and I love automation, you can do that now. I could have a storefront set up to where I could have products created 10 per day. And again, people don't realize that storefront runs on an RSS feed, much like a podcast. So it's a syndication, and you could automate that syndication to then propagate on the internet, on social media. So every time I post something in my storefront, it automatically posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So again, the more content I create, the more products I develop and build, is the more it's going to execute and more is going to spread throughout the internet.
Now, did you? I'm still mystified because I'm only slowly getting into the automation. I love how the automation. I use automation for keeping track of all my podcasts and doing the promotion for the podcast. But I never thought about using it for the creating the merch and like setting up a system that will just take care of that. How long did it take you kind of to learn that automation toolkit?
I wouldn't say it is long. It's just about taking action. It's about pressing the buttons and watching shit break. And once it breaks, then you learn something from it, and then you figure it out and you learn something new, or you hire someone to fill in the blanks, and then you hire someone and you ask them questions, and then by the time they're done building whatever it is you need to get built, you should be able to manage that thing, or at least delegate it to someone, or give it to a VA to kind of tell them exactly what you want them to do for a period of time. So the goal is you have to consistently keep learning. Like if you stop learning, you're dead. The game is over. And that's when you get compliant, and that's when people get content, and then technology surpasses them, or like the skill set of being a host surpasses you, and you get stuck in that little bubble, and that bubble gets left behind.
It's true. I am taking action. Sorry, I got a message why I'm thinking. We're actually going to have a Cast Magic next. It's the next guest here. So we're going to have a great tool and see how Cast Magic works. Where is Boss Uncaged going? Like, where do you want Boss Uncaged to go? Because I know you told me a little earlier before we went on stage some of your ideas, but what do you care to share with the audience? Let them know like where they can put their vision.
I would say if you're thinking just about podcasts, then you're thinking too small. If you're thinking just about media, then you're thinking too small. You have to think about like a foundation of something that can have all the attributes, right? And again, earlier, I forgot who you guys were interviewing, but he brought up Elon Musk and how Elon Musk jumped from one thing to another. But in Elon's mind, all of them have synergy. All of them connect. Much like I'm saying, okay, well, we have the Boston Cage Academy, we have the Boston Cage Book Club, we have the Boston Cage Food Group, we have the merch, we have all these different things. So then why can't I keep expanding it as long as it's under the one brand, create systems to manage the new things that are being developed, and then delegate, and then delegate, and then keep growing? Think about it from the standpoint of how did Amazon become what it is right now? They started selling books, and now they sell everything. I'm surprised they don't even sell kidneys yet. Eventually, they probably will.
Probably coming with the way the world is going right now. Amazon could be the first, kidney sellers. We got Jeremy in here shouting out. He says, yes, same here. A lot of what I do connects in some way, which is great. Like you were saying, creating those silos, which comes under the big empire, because I know Amazon has a ton of silos, different businesses, and that. Where did you come up with the idea of the Boss Uncaged? Like, obviously, only up until the point you launched it, were you a boss who was uncaged, or were you trying to look at how to become an uncaged boss?
I mean, there's a million different symbolisms for that, right? I mean, I've been independent as a entrepreneur. See, my son is 17, and I started when he was like 4. So 13 years I've been in the entrepreneur game. But what really hit me was more so like what my wife told me, okay, why don't you brand yourself like you've been branding everyone else? I took that to heart, and I just used all the strategies that I was using to brand everyone else. So figuring out if the name was available, making sure that the name was easy to spell, making sure that the name was phonetically easy to sound out, making sure that it was visually bold. So no matter where you would see it, it could be recognized no matter what. You could see 2 or 3 letters and be like, is that word boss? By default, you're going to think boss. If you see O and an S and 2 S's, right? When you see a B and an O and an S, you're going to think boss by default. And the other thing too was like the mathematics behind it, right? So essentially, if you add up the total letter count of boss and cage, it's essentially equals a phone number with the area code in it. And that's the easiest number that people could remember by default. So it makes it easy. If I ever want to go into phone numbers, then I could take Boston Cage and translate it into that. So again, I was intellectually overthinking it, all the different variables, and I did like all the research, and I was like, okay, well, boss and uncaged. Most people, they want to be a boss, and they're trying to figure out how to break out the cage. Or if they are a boss, you're always wanting to ever grow. It's kind of like an ecosystem, always growing. So your cage is always expanding. You break out one cage and you realize you're in another cage. You break out that cage, and you realize you're in another cage. So the goal as a boss is to always be uncaged. The second that you're caged, you're going to die. You're going to fail. Everything is not going to work at that point in time, because that's when you get compliant. That's when you kind of get happy with where you are. And I think somebody else you guys were interviewing earlier, they said the same thing. It was kind of like why would you kind of sit still if you're going to be that entrepreneur, if you're going to be like Elon, if you're going to be like Steve Jobs? They don't sit. And again, like, you could take breaks, you could take vacations, but you have to kind of be in that state of mind that not that I'm better than anyone else, I'm not competing with anybody else, I'm always competing with myself to make sure that I'm always growing and moving forward.
I love that piece of advice. Always trying to keep forward, moving forward, keep on the next horizon, not staying still for too long. Because, like you said, you stay too still, you'll start withering, you'll start getting comfortable. You're not going to move forward. Let's go into your content creation system, because it's so unique with your automations and what you have in place. How do you plan out your content creation schedule? Like, do you have a set routine? Like, hey, Monday at 5 a.m. I'm doing this, and then Tuesday I'm doing something else. What is your kind of like content strategy
Yeah.
for some people who are just starting?
I would say start with layers, right? I really want you to think about content as in layers. So layer one, and I'm just going to use a general example. Layer one, podcast, right? You got to be consistent with that. First of all, you have to be like, the podcast is not a 2-year game. It's not a 3-year game. It is a long-term play. So if you're going to be consistent and you're going to post an episode every single week for 5 to 10 years, okay, then that's covered. And what I've done was, like, I was trying to figure out, how do I get the surplus to build the supply and demand. So, like, right now, to give you an example of how much content we have, we've produced 175 episodes that we've aired, and off air we have about 200 episodes that we have not aired yet. So essentially, that gives me 4 to 5 seasons worth of content that's essentially being posted on autopilot. So once that layer is done, then I go to the next layer. So my next layer this year is books. I've published 8 books. My goal this year is to publish that same quantity. But again, going back to when I wake up maybe like 1 to 3 o'clock every morning, and I'll just write. I'll take prompts from wherever. I would do like reviews. I'll do like Google searches. I'll go into like Google Analytics and just find things that people are looking for, and I'll just write that content, because this is the year that I'm doing it. Much like last year, I focused on doing 100% interviews. I was doing up to 5, 6 interviews a day, sometimes 4 or 5 days a week, just to get to where we are right now. So that's the next layer, right? And then I also have like the book, and I have the merch, and I have the academy. So if you just put all these layers together, and again, I'm building things that are based upon RSS feeds. And once the RSS feed is syndicated, then you can automate it. I can put 100 videos on YouTube, and it'll automatically post one video at a time, one per day or one per week. And then I can say, hey, once you're done with all the content, I need you to repost that content. So the more content I put out there and the more layers I put, is at the point now, I think we post probably 32 to 64 pieces of content on all social media platforms every day at this point.
What? That's a Gary V level of stuff. That's definitely a boss level.
With the strategy, I'm not creating all that content in one day. It took me 3 years to get to where we are right now, and we're still creating content. So the goal would be like, I'm building this much like in the sense of, if I die tomorrow, Boston Case should be able to live for a period of time until somebody else says, you know what, this Boston Case thing, I want to take the range. That could be my kid, it could be your kid, but the goal is that Boston Case should be able to live for a long period of time, because it's that much content to support it to get through my lifespan and to move on to the next one.
I like that. You're really are thinking like next level. You're thinking of the generational, the legacy that you're going to be leaving, not only for yourself but for future people who want to break out of the cage and become an uncaged boss, and they can see how you got all the layers, and you're sharing all of this in your groups that you're a part of, and they can work with you to get this. What's the next layer you want to work on? Like right now, you're working on writing to get that, crushing the writing, have that stuff come out. What's the next layer you want to tackle?
Oh, software, pound for pound, period, man. Like if I never thought about it before, and I've always had this compliment that came from all my clients throughout the agency world, is that I've always had an ability to leverage technology and make it layman, or take technology and make it work the way I want it to work. And so after a while, it was kind of like, again, me and my wife had these conversations, and I'm like, I've been hearing this for like this past 20 years. And I'm like, I have all these different systems and all these different API integrations and all these different things working, and to the point to where we're leveraging like 100 different platforms. What would it look like if Boston Cage had their own platform that can at least do some of what we're doing right now at scale? So that's my goal for next year, is to really focus on that.
I can tell you right now, I'm going to definitely be wanting to be a beta tester on that, because I think just hearing how you're setting everything up, you're crushing it. We got some people saying, hey, in the chat. Always love it to see you. Some of the automations obviously are using programs from AppSumo. How do you, like, you're using the RSS feed and the APIs to connect them? Good question here. We're going to follow up with that. What is the what would be your, like, you did say Cast Magic would be that one tool for podcasters that they should get, but let's talk about entrepreneurs, because I know we have some business owners checking us out, wondering about podcasting. What is one of the lifetime deals that, or an AppSumo original that AppSumo has, that you think would be just beneficial for anybody just starting off in the business world, or they should have it?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if they're still available or not, but Social Bee was a phenomenal automation system that when I got my hands on it, I couldn't believe I had access to it. In addition to Social Bee was Publer. Publer is another one. And so when I'm looking for these platforms, I'm looking for platforms that can leverage RSS feeds. Because again, everything is going into podcasting, and podcasting's heart and soul, believe it or not, is RSS feed. If you don't have an RSS feed, you don't have a podcast. Point blank, period. So if they can get content from RSS feed and then they can distribute it, then I'm purchasing it. And that's the way I look at it. Because in the early days of automation, a lot of them didn't have the RSS feed integration. Social Bee was one of the first ones, and I was like, yes. And then Publer had, I was like, yes. And then afterwards, now they do TikTok, they do YouTube, they do Twitter, they do Instagram, they do all the other platforms. But for me, it was always about the RSS feed.
Love it. Got a question from the audience here. They're wondering, do you leverage UGC content? Now, for those that don't know UGC, that's user-generated content. That's when you get your audience to generate the content for you. So, Grant, do you use user-generated content?
Differently than you would think. I think I kind of explained it indirectly earlier. It's not necessarily users, again, because I'm interviewing high profile individuals, so I'm using them as my content creators. So like, think of it from a standpoint, when I give the example earlier about getting someone and asking them the particular questions. You guys had somebody on earlier that was saying, okay, you have to do the pre-work, you have to do the prelims to know what you're going to ask someone. So I do a lot of due diligence, and by doing my due diligence, I know exactly what to ask them, and then I already know what I'm going to use that content for later. So a lot of times I'll ask for a book. We already got a book club. If I ask someone for software, why do you think I'm asking for software? You think I'm just asking just for the hell of it? I'm asking for the community, but at the same time, that gives me monetization as well, right? So if they have a platform that I can go and test the platform out, then I can become an affiliate of that platform, right? Then I can become associated and brand and talk about that platform. So there's so many different things, and I can create a app directory later on. Like, there's so many different things that I'm asking on the show that the average user does not realize until I come up with that product a year or 2 years down the road.
Oh, I love that, how you're planting the seeds early, and that's gonna be beneficial for everyone, because you're looking not only for like the short term, you're looking long term. How can I use everything in every way and make it a huge business?
Before you go to the next question, just to add on that, I mean, prime example, every time, and you're aware of this, when you come on my show, I always get everyone a nickname, right? So every single person that comes on my show has a boss and something associated to what they do. And I haven't gotten to this part yet, but the goal is, I've been asking that since year one, for the purpose of updating the merch store to have a bunch of shirts and hats, all with that person's brand name.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? So maybe a year after, 2 years after, I send them a shirt just to follow up with, hey, you got your boss blah 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 shirt, right? By default, and then it's going to have all the links to go back if they want more product underneath that shirt as well. So I'm leveraging that long-term play, but I'm creating a database with all the information. I mean, right now we have about 500 boss names with no products with them yet.
Yeah, keyword is yet.
Yet.
This person is admiring how you broke it down. Their mind is blowing. It's a different way of looking at the content, which is what you do. You're looking at how you can take everything you've learned and how you can bring it into the Boss Uncaged silos in that.
Yep. Yep, that's the best way. Growth strategy and branding, man, they go together hand in hand, and I would say they're the root of everything. So once you figure those out, everything should be able to work for everything if you think about it long enough.
All right. Grant, I'm going to let you have the last little bit. Tell us a bit more about you and that. I'm just going to jump quickly off stage. Tell us where we can find you in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. I mean, literally, we gotten to the point now to where I check Google on a regular basis. So if you type in Uncaged and you Google it, we should probably, right now, last time I checked, we dominate the first 10 pages. So that's going to give you like all the things that we've been talking about, whether it's the merch, whether it's a podcast, whether it's an article I've written, a blog. If you just put Uncaged in Google, you're going to find all the tentacles. And you kind of see what we're talking about, how the layers just start building on themselves over a period of time.
Grant, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You're always a pleasure to talk to. Thank you for helping us out here with the AppSumo. Thank you again, brother. You're amazing. Make sure you go check out Grant's stuff because you will be mind blown from all the amazing work that he's been doing for his boss Uncaged. Grant, thank you again.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Right now, we have a treat for you. We're going to have the creator of Cast Magic, since it was so highly talked about before, jumping on here. Blaine, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Phil. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine. So yeah, sorry we didn't get a little bit of the green room chat beforehand. We're just going to be rolling through here. So Blaine, thank you very much. You are the creator of Cast Magic, correct?
That is correct.
We were just talking. Grant was just talking about how he loves Cast Magic. I got to play around with it a little bit beforehand, and my mind was blown with it. But how about you introduce yourself? How you came up with Cast Magic? Anything you think would be relevant for the start.
Sure, absolutely. So, quick little background. I've been in startups for a little while. I also host my own podcast, DTC Pod, where we interview a bunch of the biggest brands in e-commerce and consumer brands. And through that process, the pod kind of started as like a side project initially, and then it's grown. Since then, we've done about 300 episodes. And through that, I was kind of overseeing all the operations of running the pod and creating the content for it. And it was just a pain to, like, I just felt myself like really excited to have great conversations with guests. But when it came to launching the show every, Tuesday and Thursday morning, it was kind of like, oh my God, what are we gonna do about these show notes? And then, so, always looking to kind of scratch my own itch and solve problems. I saw AI coming out and had a bunch of friends in software, and I was like, how do we use this to like take care of this whole process? Fortunately, one of my friends is like an amazing developer. He was like head of platform at blockchain.com, and he'd been working for a different company, and I kind of told him about the idea at first, and I thought he'd come back and say, oh, that's like, cool, but no thanks. But he was kind of like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'll build it. And I was like, oh, no way. What? So that kind of kicked us off on starting to build Cast Magic. The first goal was, how do we build this as an internal tool for our own podcast to make sure that, it's good enough to the point where every week that, the goal was, how do we get it to a place where I'm able to like dump my episode in and get everything out that I need and not have to worry about it. So I was kind of like the guinea pig. And then once we had that, we started to spin it out, and other podcasters started to see a ton of value in it as well. And yeah, that's a little bit about the whole story. And then I guess how it ties into AppSumo is we were approached by, or we'd been talking with like Nick over there, who I think is talking today, but we had been talking to him briefly about the pod. He was like, hey, what are you guys doing with DTC Pod? And we're like, hey, by the way, we built this tool, Cast Magic. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, we should get you guys in the store. And he was like, if you get this thing ready in like a week, we can have it ready for South by Southwest and do a whole panel with like Noah and like Sam Parr and like all these people. And we're like, okay, that's a tight timeline, but let's do it. So we did a sprint. We finished the product, and then we launched with AppSumo for South by Southwest.
I'm amazed. Like, you came up with this idea. Obviously, the best thing to do is build a tool that saves your skin. that helps you with your workload, that saves time for you so that you can focus on the stuff that grows. Was it particularly difficult creating Cast Magic, or was there like it was intuitive, if you will?
I think both, right? It was very intuitive to build, but at the same time, you run into a whole bunch of use cases that you just don't even anticipate, right? I think the tricky part, a lot of people are like, "Oh, AI is here, and it can help all these different podcasts and all sorts of creators." But I don't believe all AI tools and softwares are created equal. There's so many decisions that go into when you're productizing them, which lead to the different results and the outputs, right? There's certain people who have played around with different tools, have played around with ChatGPT themselves and get different results. And that comes with not only how you're building the system and how you're making product choices, but like, just for instance, everyone has different types of shows. Some are monologues, some are interviews, some are panels, some are, 3 hosts that don't have any guests, some are like one host with like 5 guests. There's all these different like corner cases that you have to like really productize to build a solid product around. So yeah, that's kind of how I would think about it. A lot of things are generally intuitive, and then there's a lot of things that you don't even think about that take a lot of work on the productization side.
Just as you were talking, I'm like, oh, because I'm in the process of building something. It's very, very rudimentary, saving my problem. Then I'm like, but I would love this for other podcasts. I didn't even think about all the different types of podcasts that and styles there are. So now, thanks for sharing that with me and giving me some anxiety for that. But I want to go to the problem that your Cast Magic solved. It was your podcast DTC. How did that come about? Like, how did you come up with the idea to talk with people in the e-commerce world?
So a company that I was working on at the time, we were focused in serving D2C merchants. We basically had built a customer data platform for all sorts of brands that were built on Shopify. And, one of the best ways to like take a product to market is start talking to customers and start talking to potential customers. So the podcast kind of came out of that. Ramon, who is my co-host for D2C Pod, he had already kind of started up the pod, and his other host was leaving and moving on to something else. We were both in Miami, and I was like, wait, like, why don't we just like partner up on this podcast together? I've got a place and a studio space that we can record out of. And, he was a good friend, and we like to, think about things the same way. So it was just kind of a natural fit into podcasting. I never thought I'd be a creator myself, but, but after we got going, it became pretty natural.
Well, what is your favorite part of the DTC pod? Like, what makes you keep wanting to come back and record new episodes?
Yeah, so this is one thing I always say for different podcasters. It seems like you should think about it, especially when you're just getting started. It can be a lot like as the show's starting to grow in the early days. I think the best framework that I have to think about is like, would these be conversations that I'd want to have if they weren't being recorded as a podcast and like there wasn't a show to grow or there was nothing to do? Like, if everything else was thrown out the window, would I still enjoy this conversation that I spent my time with with the person on the other side of the pod with me? Is that something that I would enjoy and that I'd take forward with me and be happy that I did? And that's an answer that I can say absolutely yes to. It for me, I'm a pretty curious person, so I love getting some of the best brands and best builders and best entrepreneurs, and just kind of get time to sit with them and ask them all the questions that I'm genuinely curious about and learn a little bit more about them, have them share their story. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what got me into the space in the beginning.
I like it. And so, in this agreement between you and Ramon, were you did you agree to take care of the show notes and all the stuff that now Cast Magic solves for us?
I mean, it wasn't clear from from when we got started, but like I said, I'm kind of one of those people who's maybe a little bit too, you know, I guess detail obsessed. What's the word for it? Not detail obsessed, like to the point, like compulsive, like obsessive compulsive about like details and everything like that. So I think when we had a process set up, but I was like, ooh, I want to make these show notes better. I want to create more content. I want to create like visual content. I want to create Twitter threads. I want to create all these different types of assets. And we just didn't have the time or means or anything to do it. So that's why when AI came out, I thought, or not necessarily came out, but really started to go, mainstream. And even before that, we'd been playing around with it. But I think there was a big inflection point from between GPT-3 and when ChatGPT rolled out. GPT-3, we had been running, like Cast Magic was initially built on GPT-3. And the results were good, but they weren't great, to the point where you were able to come up with decent content that summarized conversations well, but like it wasn't everything that you'd need, where you'd feel confident being like, oh my God, I could literally copy paste and make like 2 edits here or there to this content. So I think when we saw that inflection point in the market, that was like a big unlock for products and product acceleration, for that matter.
Just wondering, are you able to give us maybe a quick live demo of Cast Magic?
Definitely.
Awesome. Love this for the audience, so that you guys can see how intuitive and how awesome Cast Magic is.
All right.
Ooh, got a good question before we jump on there.
Oh, I see a couple of questions in there. One, I see a question about German, and
Yes.
I'm happy to report, for whatever reason, like Germany has been one of our biggest audiences. I think it's our biggest market outside of English. I don't know why. I guess Germans just love this sort of efficiency that it brings. But yeah, we're all about Team Germany. And the other comment I see, love Cast Magic. I use it weekly. I love to see that. That's awesome. We're super pumped to have you on board. I have so many tabs. Let me try this.
Take your time. Take your time. We're not in too much of a rush here.
Okay.
But yeah, it's great to hear that you are getting, and I think it makes sense. German people are known to be a bit very efficient in what they do. So having something like Cast Magic, which helps with the efficiency, is great as well. So
okay, I think we're live. Are you able to see this?
I'm going to bring it onto the screen right now. Boom.
Very cool. Okay, so basically, once you get into Cast Magic, over here you're able to see your podcast. If you have more than one podcast, you could just click in, and then you could create a new podcast there, or manage multiple shows right here. Let's see. Would you want me to answer the questions as they roll in, or just keep going with the demo?
Well, let's so what makes Cast Magic different from other services like this on the market?
So I think the major one, it's a couple of things. One, it's like how we think about productizing workflow, organization, speed, and then also accuracy and where we're taking the platform. Like I had just alluded to earlier in the show, I think there's everyone who sets out to create a service like this, they'll think about productizing it in a different way, and we have one lens to that. I think we do a good job for it. You're welcome to try out some of the other platforms as well. I just think in terms of like our goal, in terms of building a really simple, easy to use workspace that's highly accurate and really quick, like that's kind of what we want to do. Okay, so continuing along, right here. So now we're in our podcast. So this is actually my show, D2C Pod, right here. If I have a new episode coming up that I want to process through Cast Magic, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to upload my file. I'm going to be able to do that. I can upload M4A, MP3, MP4, WAV, or AAC. Or if it's an already published like YouTube link, I can just paste a YouTube URL and it'll just import it automatically. Once that's done, I'm able to go in and you'll see an episode here, right? So actually, let me go back to this one, Philip. So here's an example of an episode. This was a solo interview between me and a friend, Philip, and we talked about content. So the first thing you're going to get is a really accurate transcript that automatically filters out all the filler words. So it's going to cut out the knows, the all the words that I'm probably fumbling right now as we talk. It's going to cut out all of those things. And then you're going to see how these are broken down by speaker, and you're going to actually label. So the only point of action that you're going to need when you're starting to work with Cast Magic is you're going to go in and you're going to label who speaker A is, and you're going to label them as your speaker or as a guest. And that's going to give AI the context that it needs to create all the great content that I'm about to show you. Let's see, clicking in. So once we've labeled both speakers and the AI knows who it is, it's going to be able to start generating content. And you're going to be able to see here right out of the box, we're generating titles for the show, keywords, a bio about the speaker, an introduction to that particular episode. We also give you a timestamped overview of the show and what we talked about in this episode. questions and answers. This one's fun. This just kind of is a different way of thinking about and breaking up the content that's covered in the show. One way I like to use this one is if I'm trying to like lead someone into like why they should listen to the show, I might say, you know, here's a question that we answered on the show. What are content pillars and why are they important? And maybe not give away the answer, just as a way to like lead people in instead of just giving them everything. Then we also have key topics and bullets. So this is like a in-depth, proper summarization of all the stuff that you covered on your show. So this is really good if you just wanted to quickly run through and kind of flashback and be like, okay, what did we talk about? What were the key topics? What were some of the things that I could use to create content? This is like your cheat sheet of all the really valuable, important things that were covered on that show. Next one, this one's fun, Clip Finder. So this is where you'll find your memorable clips or memorable quotes and timestamps. So it's going to give you who said it, an important quote that they gave, and maybe, and as well as a title or a CTA for that quote. So what's really cool about that is the reason we do this, and I don't use any other sort of tools, is because I have a video editing team who likes to create our own clips. So we're doing a lot of things that are custom that you're not going to be able to just do out of like, you know, one of those clip generator apps or anything like that. So for our workflow, this has been really valuable. We can also use these and turn them into video quote cards or image quote cards and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're going to get 10 quotes from every speaker, which is nice. And it helps you if you're an editor. You can just kind of go through there, see which ones you like, pick them, turn them into whatever asset that you need. Real script, this one's fun. This is for if you want to create, like after the show, a quick little recap on your social. Maybe you want to create a TikTok, a reel, or just a quick little story talking about what you covered on the show. We write the script for you, so you're able to take that and just run with it. We also do a LinkedIn post for you, a couple variations, a newsletter, so you can email out to your listeners that your episode's live and what's in there, and a tweet thread. The tweet thread is actually one of my favorites because it's not just a singular tweet, but it takes everything that you covered in the length of the episode and distills it into like a really coherent flow. And I think that's just really valuable because now you're getting a coherent stream of what's covered instead of just like, here's 5 random tweets that you could post about, you know, something random on this episode. So that's what we give you out of the box. And then a couple other things. We do have Magic Chat. This one is like a sleeper pick, but this one's my favorite. So this is basically ChatGPT, but for your podcast. So if there's something different than the content that was already supplied that you would want, you can just go in here and ask for it. So couple ways I use this. One, like this prompt is crazy, but I'm like, write a worksheet on creating great content based on this episode. And it goes and it does like the entire thing based on all the things that we covered in that episode. So this one's really crazy. Yeah, and all the content, like this isn't just like made up. It's all stuff that the speaker had said. Like this topic for this example episode, it was with Philip Raffini from Content Assistant, and we covered like what it takes to build a great content strategy. So he was like, you know, step 1, define your content pillars, right? So to do that, what do you need to do? What are your brand values? What topics align with your brand values? What topics resonate with your audience? What topics can you consistently create content about? And then step 2, he's like, now you're going to create your content strategy. So it's like, once you've done that, you need to come up with it, right? And then, so to do that, here's what you need to do. What are my content goals? What type of content is best suited for achieving those goals? What audience segments should I be targeting? How will I measure success? And then choose 3. Step 3, he was like, maybe start content with something that's relatable. So it's like, choose well-known brands or people instead of going in. Like if I were to just instantly start talking about Cast Magic, someone who doesn't know about Cast Magic is just be like, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to talk about it. So he was like, why don't you start by talking about like a current event or a famous brand that everyone can relate to. And then, you know, to choose well-known brands, you can ask yourself, who are the thought leaders in my industry? What brands align with my brand values? So this is just really crazy that it's able to pull all of this highly accurate, content just based off that episode. But again, Magic Chat's really cool because you're able to ask it anything you really want. Even I was like, you know, come up with a list of 10 potential guests who would be a great fit for my podcast based on the themes and topics covered in my episode, and write a personalized invitation for each guest. So like you can get as creative as you want with this, asking it for anything from as simple as a summary or a blog post on a specific topic you like. You could have it write a tweet thread for you in the style of your favorite content creator on Twitter, or you could have it, I mean, I don't want my guests to hear this, but sometimes I use Magic Chat to write thank you notes or thank you emails to my guests based on the topics that we covered. So anyway, it's just a really amazing way to create content.
This is insane. And we got a good question from Jeremy. Jeremy's asking some amazing questions today. He would like to know which Chat GPT version is it on? It's still on the 3.0 or we're on the 4 point something now?
So this is a combination of, we use a bunch. We use 3.5 and we use 4 in some places. What we found actually is the most important thing to creating great content is the context. It's not necessarily the language model. Like what we found is 3.5 for the vast majority of things is really great. And there's certain things 4 is really great at. So it's just a mix based on cost, time, efficiency, all that sort of stuff. A lot of these prompts, especially the longer ones, they take minutes and minutes to generate on 4, whereas with the right context, maybe we do some processing with 4 and then feed that into Turbo to create some other stuff. So that's kind of how we mix and match models to create the best outputs.
Oh, this is a game changer for podcasters. I do want to know, this is your baby, this is your tool. Obviously, it's based on AI. But is there other AI tools that you use on top of using your Cast Magic for your podcast?
Yeah, so there's a couple that I use. Let's see. I mean, just the simple ones. I use GPT embedded in Google Sheets and Airtable a lot of the times. That's just a fun, easy one. Another one I use is, let's see. I mean, the normal ones like GPT-4, Midjourney, for visuals and creation of things like that. I also have this widget up here called Allison. It helps like summarize different things on the web. That one's pretty cool. So yeah, a couple different tools that I like to bring into my workflow.
I love that. Have a question about a roadmap type situation on your thing. Is there going to be a download all content option?
What do you mean by download all content? We could definitely make it happen. I'm just curious. We have like a little copy content if you want all the content blocks, but what kind of format would you like?
I'm guessing it would be like, hey, instead of being copy, they can just hit download. It downloads into like a zip file or a Word doc. I'm guessing. If I'm incorrect, please user let me know so that I can be corrected. But I'm gonna ask on my part, would there be a download all button? Because I upload this. Let's say I have an automation. I'm like my good man SA Grant, create an automation using this. I just need to download all and then upload it so that my automation or a CSV, so download into a text or a CSV type file to be uploaded.
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. It's definitely something that we'll add probably pretty quickly. I know we had a bunch of user requests before to, like, for example, one of the crazy things, I didn't realize how good our transcripts were. So a bunch of people were like, can I download this transcript? And I was like, why does anyone need to download the transcript? You have all your content here. But, customers asked for it, so we made it so you can download all your transcripts in text, SRT, VTT, that sort of thing. So yeah, if you guys want it, we can make it happen for here. We'll have a download package button and to be able to rip all of it out.
There you go, yeah. I copy each one over to Google Doc, then edit it there. So maybe a download all that could definitely help people move it over so that they have that for their going through their content creation, because they may not need all those keywords or all the titles, but they will not, maybe the refresh, test them out, split testing and all that. Having options is always great. Where do you want to see Cast Magic go? Like what is, if you could give us allude to something maybe on the roadmap?
So on the roadmap coming out this week, one thing we're really excited about is basically the fine tuning of these prompts. So right now, out of the box, you're getting, generic titles, keywords, speaker bio, intro, timestamps, all these in, I mean, I wouldn't call them necessarily generic, but like they're applied the same way across all our different shows. Whereas now you'll be able to kind of open up, get behind the hood. If you have a certain voice or style that you'd like your titles to be in, or your speaker bios or a format, like you'll be able to tune that up to your show. So as soon as you upload the file, you're able to get all your content outputs in the exact format that you like. So you don't have to use my format, you can use your own. So that one's fun. That'll be coming out soon. and hold on, I see some other API integration into Zapier. Yep, that one is definitely on the roadmap. So that one, keep an eye out for that in a couple of weeks. That should be coming up. That one's definitely been requested to kind of start pushing this content to all the different end destinations that you'd like.
That's insane. I'm very excited for when you get that Zapier integration, because that's going to make my life a hell of a lot easier. You had LinkedIn. Are you planning on putting other social media platforms up there, or are they already attached? Because I only saw LinkedIn, but
yeah, I think it was LinkedIn and Twitter at the bottom down here.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, if there's other platforms that we want to customize for, we've got a lot of requests for like more YouTube specific things. So
of
we'll be
course.
rolling that out really shortly. But yeah, definitely as soon as we hear them from customers, we're going to build them. So
Love hearing that. Love hearing that. So, guys, if you're using Castmate, Castmagic, let us know what your favorite feature or feature you want, and we'll definitely pass it off over to Blaine. But Blaine, what do you see the space of podcasting going? This is a brand new industry, or it's a relatively young industry with a lot of new tools. You know, you have Castmagic, you have Cast Show, you have StreamYard, you have all these other platforms coming out helping podcasters get to it. Where do you think the industry is going?
where I think it needs to go is like, what's the point, right? And I think the point of podcasting is like sharing a story or sharing content. And one of the hard parts and where all the legwork has been traditionally coming in is in that post-production loop to get all your different insights directly to an audience and whomever is going to want to listen, right? So, initially when there's not a whole bunch of competition in the space, I'm talking from a podcasting perspective, when there's not a lot of podcasts out there, in the early days of podcasting, you've got more people on with the podcast app on iTunes on their phone than you have podcasters to create that content. As that paradigm starts to shift and you have more content creators, and it like balances out with consumers, you need to be really thoughtful about how you actually grow your audiences and how you deliver that content to the people that need to hear it. So I think one of the big opportunities is for podcasting is like, how do we use tools to get that information that you're covering closer to the people who are interested in it, as quickly as possible. So that's kind of where I see a tool like Castmagic coming into the picture. And then in terms of where things go from here, I think, what we had alluded to earlier in the show, I think podcasting in general is such a high ROI initiative if you're able to approach it the right way and execute on it the right way, especially for whether you're marketing, whether you're talking personal brand, whatever you're trying to do. When you have a long format conversation, you're able to do this like amazing kind of like mental dump of everything that's going on in your head at a given time. And a lot of it's great content that just isn't surfaced. So I think, podcasting just becomes such an attractive format for any sort of creator who's looking to engage in content marketing. It's almost like the next generation of like the blog, if you will. You don't have to write it. If you can just open up your mouth and start talking, you can capture it.
Well, yeah, we did grow, our society did grow on storytelling, and podcasting is like just that evolution. And tools like, you guys, Blaine, you're creating with Castmagic, is allowing us to take the next step. Because normally the companies, like I look at it like a radio and TV. They have a whole production, but now it's decentralized. Like one person can do it, and thanks to tools like what you're creating, is going to allow us to take it off. I'm going to ask you, since this is in conjunction with AppSumo, and obviously Castmagic is an AppSumo special deal right now. If you go over to the podcast collection, you'll definitely see Castmagic there. But out of all the tools on AppSumo that you use, what is one that you say is super underrated?
Underrated. Let me pull up AppSumo. I mean, let me see. So I know there's a whole bunch of great tools on AppSumo. I actually, as crazy as this might sound, I didn't even know about AppSumo before I like launched Castmagic. So I haven't had the pleasure of getting to like really play around with a bunch of the other tools on there. But that being said, it looks like, once I found AppSumo, I was like, what have I been doing my whole life? Because at least the deal that they had us put together, that we worked on them for Castmagic, it's like a pretty incredible offer, especially given that it's a lifetime deal and we're going to be off AppSumo pretty quickly. So I think that one's awesome. But yeah, I've been poking around in AppSumo looking for different tools that I might need to add to my stack a lot.
Awesome. I'm going to jump off stage here, Blaine. Please let the audience know where they can connect with you, where they can get DTC Pod, but also if there's anything big going on with Cast Magic. The floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys are interested in learning more, you can always reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn, Blaine Bolus. You can check us out on AppSumo or directly through our website, castmagic.io or appsumo.com/castmagic. And yeah, would love to hear from any of you, any questions that you have. Always happy to help out.
Excellent. Blaine, I want to thank you so much for ending my first hour here on the 12-hour marathon and hitting hour number 5. So Blaine, thank you so much for demonstrating Cast Magic and being a part of this huge event.
All right. Good luck. Good luck with the next couple hours. Crush it.
Thank you, brother. Take care and have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Guys, I'm so excited to have talked with Blaine and seeing all the crazy stuff that Cast Magic. I only saw a fraction of it. So if you're not using Cast Magic, go check out their lifetime deal. They have an amazing deal. Like, I was just off screen. I was checking it out. Probably going to purchase it after this stream to deal with all the content that we have here. But speaking of content, content is profit. We got the Biz brothers in the house. We got both of them there. There they are. One was hiding, one's jumping up. How are you guys doing today?
Phil, how are you, man? Thanks for having us. We're great. How you doing?
Hour 2? Great. We're starting. Starting the second hour. Voice is still good. I got still some water here, so I'm good to go. But you guys are the Biz brothers. I want to thank you so much. We connected through our good friend Chris Cowden, who set up this whole event. Like, this is all Chris who set this up. He figured out all the speakers, who's doing what. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves so I can just take a break in talking. So please, Biz Bros, introduce yourselves.
Sweet. Awesome. Fonzie, just like with his eye, it was like, you do it. So I guess I'll do it. That's the advantage of being the more handsome and with the sexy voice over here. You don't get
the actual boss right here. You know how that goes.
So we're actual brothers. We're actually from Venezuela. We've been here in the States since 2010. Our dream was always to become professional soccer players. And when that was not a thing anymore, we're like, whoa, what do we do? And we started exploring different things. We went from selling vinyl stickers door to door in the businesses in the town that we lived on, to then, what else do you need marketing wise? And we started helping small businesses. I personally ran fitness studios. Fonzie coached a ton of soccer as well on the side. We ended up in video production for these companies, and then that kind of evolved into, the thing that we've done for the last almost 4 years now, which is multi-purpose content. And then we also have a show called Content is Profit, who's part of the Hotspot Podcast Network. So that's a very fast version of
the
Cliff Notes.
That is definitely a Cliff Note version, and we love it here. So sorry, got distracted, getting messages from the boss. Making sure I'm on point, and he's distracting me during this. I apologize for that. But so how did you guys get into the podcasting game?
Yeah, that's a interesting story because personally, I think we listened to a few podcasts, right? When we were in the coaching industry, we would have to drive a lot, and we started listening to a lot of podcasts. And I think that's how the entrepreneurial spirit started to blossom in us. But turns out, after we went from freelancing to finally kind of like owning a business and having a little bit of a team, right? That was around 2020 when everything shut down. And when that happened, 80% of our clients said, hey, we got to stop, because they were brick and mortars, right? And they had to shut down. Nobody was working. We panicked, right? We had some people, we had a team to take care of, right? We had to take care of our families. My brother, personally, he had taken out a loan, pretty big loan, to pay into a mastermind that we were part into. That honestly, that mastermind changed your lives. Great investment, 100%, but it did come with its challenges, right? Maybe the timing wasn't the best.
I also had a newborn.
He also had a newborn.
Wow. So you just like stress, is from what I understand. You just like stress. Okay.
Yes.
Pretty much. So what happened is that 20% of the business, pretty much, there was one client in there that had a podcast, pretty successful, and he was producing 3 episodes every single week. So we said, you know what? A lot of the clients that left, we actually we're ready to move on from there. And now we have all this time in our hands. Why don't we start a podcast? Fun fact, we actually had the equipment from a year ago, from before that, because we attempted to start a podcast a year before that, but we put so much friction in the process that we recorded 5 episodes and then put everything back in the closet. So when we were, against the wall on the sword, we said, let's just replicate what this client is doing. 3 episodes a week, every single week. We're just going to go live. We had the roadcaster. We don't have to post-produce anything. Like, we got the intro in here. Let's do it as simple as possible. And now we are on episode 400. Today we recorded 413, right?
Wow.
Every single week, 3 times a week. Maybe we've skipped like a handful of episodes during those weeks.
Definitely Fonz's fault.
Definitely my fault. Somebody has to carry responsibility once in a while. So
not the one with the child, not the one who has a child.
I'm always on time.
So yeah, after that we started discovering, right? That it's like, wow, the power of podcasting, the connections, right? The relationships that you get to build in here. And in about 3 months, we actually recovered that 80% of the business that we had lost. We had peace of mind, a little bit more peace of mind. We were okay. We're gonna be able to pay that $20,000 loan that my brother took out, and it just changed everything for us, right? Thanks to that, we managed to grow our business, grow our team, and meet you guys and be here today.
Well, it's my pleasure. I've been wanting to get you on my podcast, but we're in the hiatus, a whole bunch of rigmarole, and we're gonna get you guys booked on the show because you guys do it somewhat similar to me. I like to batch my recordings a lot. Do you guys batch your recordings?
So that was actually a pretty interesting conversation we had at the very beginning, and we're like, we know what the commitment is gonna be to record 3 times a week, and because when we started, we didn't have a lot of post-production assets. We're like, we're actually gonna record it live, and what comes out of that live, that's the podcast. So we literally stripped the audio, and that was the publishing thing. So we're lucky enough that part of the equipment that we had was a Rodecaster Pro. So we built all the intro sounds, all the stuff in there, and the final recording with mistakes and all. That was it, the episode. And to this day, the flow hasn't really changed much.
Yeah.
So we were like, we're committed to building these relationships at least 3 times a week. And for us, really, honestly, is a source of energy. Every time we have a conversation with amazing guests or just be online talking content and talking the thing that we love, it just gives us a ton of energy. So we get depressed if we don't produce a podcast episode. That's what happens.
Yeah, it's like, what is going on? Oh, yeah, we haven't recorded.
We haven't recorded an episode. Yeah.
I love that, how your well-being is tied to recording an episode, and I feel like that. I generally do it on 2 days. So 2 days a week, I record about 10 episodes in those 2 days because the rest of the week I'm busy trying to build a business. So putting a podcast interruption there could be detrimental to finding a meeting. But
Yep.
I have a question here. You guys have something called a publishing pyramid.
Yes, sir.
And I hit those P's really hard. And as a podcaster, I should have known better than to hit them so hard. But how did you guys come up with this publishing pyramid, and like, how can you use it? How can other people use it to create content?
Yeah, 100%. And to add context to that, we're actually we like to go to a lot of events, a lot of entrepreneurs, surround yourself with like-minded people. And we were at this event, and this pretty big entrepreneur who was talking about the value of having your own frameworks, right? And it's like, create your own processes, right? Like your own frameworks, label them, make them yours, because those are identifiers, right? They're going to add more value to what you do. So after that, we started naming like every single thing that we would do, right? We would like try to find either like a cool acronym, just like put it all together and then create these things. But this one actually came to be out of a podcast. We were guesting in somebody else's podcast, and we started talking, and she said, all right, can you guys guide me through the story, right? On how you guys managed to start the podcast. So, before that, we actually launched a live challenge. We called it the 45 Live. Go live for 45 days in a row, right? The whole idea was for us to pretty much break through the barrier of creating, because we were putting so much friction. We were actually selling content, but we weren't creating content ourselves. And, we got some challenges in there, X, Y, and Z. we launched this challenge, right? It was honestly a total success. Day 17, we got the biggest client we've had at that time. Mind blown. And we were sharing this story with the person. And then at the end of the story, she's like, wow, you guys had like this publishing pyramid, right? She actually came up with the name, and we're like,
yes, that.
Wow, that's how the framework is going to be called, the publishing pyramid. So what is the publishing pyramid, right? And to truly understand it, we got to go from the top to the bottom, but to execute it, we got to go from the bottom to the top. And how it is it's actually kind of like a journey of creation. When you first start getting into this game, you hear all these messages from like, Gary Vee, all these big time creators that they produce content at scale, right? So you try to replicate that. Eventually you're burning out because you don't have the resources or the capacity to do so, right? And then if you keep going down the pyramid, right, you start finding that there's other elements like consistency. Wow, it's difficult to stay consistent. Very, very difficult. And if you keep going down, you find that at the basis of all, you get messaging. Because if you don't have a good message, none of the other things matter. Like, you're not going to get anybody's attention. So what we decided to do after we kind of like, introspectively reflected a little bit and say, wow, we're doing things wrong. We are not actually creating in a sustainable way. We decided to start at the bottom of the pyramid with message. And we told ourselves, guess what? Quality of the message over quality of the production. Because when we first tried to launch a podcast, which we called Brews and Bros, that's a podcast that we recorded 5 episodes and it didn't work. And I'm happy it didn't work because we would have been like alcoholics at this point. And, we tried that and we just added so much friction, right? We wanted to do it based on the post-production value of it, when in reality, the message wasn't there. So when we did the 45 live challenge, we said quality of the message over quality of the production. That translated into our Content is Profit, which is the podcast that we have right now. Quality of the message over quality of the production. Now we do have, after 400 episodes, you do improve the production and all these things.
I would hope after
Right?
400 episodes, if you're not improving.
Yep, exactly. But at the same time, it's like, okay, let's make the focus the message. And once you have that message, you know what you're talking about. You know who you're talking about, right? You know how you're communicating your ideas. Then you start setting up your consistency and you start doing it more often, right? And to get that consistency, you got to sometimes decrease that friction on the production side of things. After that, that is second stage of the pyramid. So we got the foundation, which is the message. Second stage is consistency. Once you start going consistently, you start measuring your capacity and you realize, wow, I am being consistent right now, but maybe I'm stretching myself a little bit, right? And then you start like, okay, well, let me see. Can I do a podcast every single day? Can I do the podcast 3 times a week? Or can I do it 10 episodes in 2 days? Everybody has a different capacity and it's up to you to measure that. And the challenge is that when people start, they don't really understand that and they just try to go all out and then they burn out, right? What happens then is you have your capacity, and then this is kind of like interchangeable at the top, the capacity and the resources. You look as well and you say, okay, what are my resources? Do I have a team? Do I need to do it myself, right? Nowadays is what AI tools potentially can help me, right? And you use all those resources to manage your capacity and be able to publish content consistently with the right message, right? So this pyramid goes kind of like up and down. Eventually, if your messaging is right, you're showing up consistently, right? Based on your capacity and your resources, your content is going to start making money, right? If you have it attached to your business, potentially, that's how we did it. And now you get to reinvest back into the company, right? And now you can increase your capacity by hiring editors, right? You can increase that by having other AI tools, etc. And now you can increase your content production. So I know I just dropped a lot in there about the publishing pyramid. We got like a simple graph that we can share with people, and it explains it pretty simple. Let me tell you.
So I'm going to act as the audience here, getting this all downloaded into my mind without having met you guys or knowing anything about it before, just having questions about what is this and what is that.
Yeah.
So if I understand correct, it's better to focus on your message. Once your message is reeled in, 90% reeled in, then we look at being consistent, either talking about your message or something that's related to your message. That's the consistency bar. You just need to show, pretty much, if you don't show up every day, you ain't showing up at all. Or at least a consistent schedule that you can deal with. Like you guys, it's every 3 days you have an episode, or you release 3 times a week. That's the consistency. You're always at least Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm there. So that's our consistency part. Then it comes up to our capacity. Because as humans, we're not always capable of everything because life gets in the way, right? And some people be knocked down. Some people maybe have that energy one week versus the next. So you fit into your capacity. You make sure your capacity can stay with your consistency. Like you said, if you can't do daily because it's not in your capacity, go to 3, go to 1, figure out. Or if you're a crazy person like me, choose 2 days a week and just record as many podcasts as you can. I highly suggest not doing that. That is very draining. But I know a few of the big guys, they like doing it on their Friday. It's the end of the week thing. And it does make sense if you have a multi-episode week release podcast. And then at the top is the resources that you have. And it could be your editors, your content writers, your AI tools, anything like that, the automations, all that, all together. So I think I broke it down, even though
you nailed it.
You did great.
Yep.
Got that. Love that. And we got the big boss himself, the boss Uncaged, is letting us know. Brand everything, baby. Thanks, Shala Grant, for the connection to Louis. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your guys' last name. To the Louis boys. Yes.
Keep it at Louis. Yeah, we're good.
Louis. The Louises. Dos Louis. Oh, that was Chris. I'm sorry, it wasn't Grant. I saw Grant there first and thought it was him, but it is our host, who should be in bed by now. He's gonna probably stay up all night, knowing him, just to make sure everything goes bed. But you can sleep, Chris. It's all right. You can trust me and Mike. Hopefully, you can trust me. I got 2 hours. I'm starting my second hour here. We're going great. Got the biz bros who are talking about content to is profit, about their publishing pyramid. I want to know, you guys use AppSumo, right? You guys are familiar with AppSumo. What are some of the tools that you use for your podcast?
I mean, just recently we tried the amazing Cast Magic. So I'm personally obsessed because at the end of the day, right, we talk about these 6 phases of the profitable content as well, right? This is like the second part to the publishing pyramid. And the first stage is, what do you actually say? Like, what's that part of the message, right? And when we did the challenge was, we're just going to tell a story of something that happened today. We're going to relate it to the business and then call to action, right? But as you do a podcast episode, right? When we first started, we did 20 solo episodes. And then after that, we're like, well, what else? So we have to, to be consistent, we got to figure that one out. And it tends to be, if it's not conversations, right, it tends to drain a lot, right? If you don't have an editor, if you don't have a researcher, like, how do we actually find these topics, right? So on that specific phase, and we can talk about the others, I think this tool has been incredible because from one episode, then it spits out amazing ideas on the other end with Q&As, questions, real script, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much material. And sometimes when we're in these conversations during the podcast, or even when we do a solo episode, that is one piece of content, and we truly believe on multipurposing on the back end, but we also have to break it down on the ideas that we're talking about on the show. And this tool, what it does on the back end, it spits back those ideas back to you, and then you can create more on top of that, right? So then out of one episode, you're like, wow, these are like 20 Q&As, and these can be individual reels or individual YouTube shorts that then could help the podcast, could help you as a authority in your field, right? It can help you rewind those ideas, or even discover frameworks, right? We've gone through other conversations like this ones, and then we mentioned, be like, it makes sense. And then that becomes part of the process. So I've been obsessed over the last week. We've been like playing with it, and we're educating the team on how can we put that as part of the process inside of the production that we have now, to continue have that loop back and forth of content, so we never run out of content. That's one of the secrets of why we've produced more than 400 episodes, and we'll continue to do so.
So yeah, we heard from one brother. What about you, Louis? Haha, I don't have to mess up the name here. Louis said something. Louis said another thing. Is there an AppSumo tool apart from Cast Magic that you really like using? Could be podcasting related or not.
Yeah, I think there's two that actually. I mean, the thing is that we pretty much do everything around the podcast. So but these two I've tried. I will say we use other solution just because of the business, but I love jumping in. Once in a while, I just jump to look at all the new tools that they put in because it's absolutely amazing. I got the shiny object syndrome, that's for sure. But
I think we all do.
Yeah, and I'm gonna leave the second one that I mentioned is actually my favorite. The first one is TidyCall, right? I mean, that is just extremely useful to manage your calendar, get people to book with you, etc. So that is a must. We have actually created shortcuts on our keyword, and every time we gotta send that an invite to somebody for a 20-minute conversation, 45-minute conversation, I just type meet 20 and a link just go out their way where they can do the scheduling instead of going back and forth, right? So you save a lot of time. Then the other one that I think is pretty good, specifically for people that might be starting in the podcasting world, even just in business in general, even if they're not podcasting, is SendFox, right? And that is the email newsletter. Super simple to use, right? You don't really have too much of the hassle of like setting it up as some of the bigger kind of like email marketing platforms, and is super minimalist. I'm a big fan of just minimalist UX, right? All these things. And I think SendFox does that. So to start your email list and to promote your podcast, right? Let your list know that you release an episode, etc. SendFox is a really good solution.
Oh yeah, no, I exclusively use both those. TidyCal, I think, I got it first when I started one of my podcasts. They're like, do you have a scheduling link? Because if you don't, you really need one. And at that point, I was only doing solo episodes, so I never really needed a guest.
Yeah.
But then I started with doing the batching. I was like, I need this, and I go over to AppSumo because why not, right? And
why not?
Their TidyCal was it was like a lifetime deal for. With all of it gives you can charge clients if you want. You can have. If you're using it for business, if you're using it for podcasting, you got those emails that go out for the podcast for each individual. Like it sets you up for everything, and then connect it with SendFox. They go hand in hand, and
and that's something I really enjoy. Not gonna lie. So we're big fans of Noah Kagan. Like we love his YouTube channel. Like I follow him before he even like started the YouTube channel and all that stuff, right? And so something that I like. I mean, SendFox and TidyCal, they are AppSumo apps.
They're AppSumo originals.
Yeah, originals, right? Like they developed those and he uses them, right? Like when I get some of his emails, like I'm like, oh, cool, like SendFox. So the fact that they build those and they actually use them as well, it's a big deal. You're like, cool, it's kind of like that stamp of approval. And I actually just went on AppSumo right now, and I'm seeing some new stuff in there that I've never seen before, and I'm like, this looks so cool. Like there's one right now that is like break cold, build B2B relationships via LinkedIn, Twitter, email. I'm like, ooh, it's like a CRM for your social media in there that you can sell cold messages to people and get them on your podcast. Yes, sign me up.
And I just want to say, Noah, if you are listening and watching this, because I know you may be jumping in and out, you are free to come on whenever you want. Just letting you know, let us, let Chris, let myself know, and we will send you the link to get you on, because we want to celebrate AppSumo and what they're doing to help not only entrepreneurs, but podcasters creating all these amazing tools, because it's a world for creators, and you are definitely helping. I don't want to. So I know you have 6 stages of profitable publishing, and you have a blueprint. And I don't want to steal your blueprint. I don't want you to give it away for free, even though it's probably on your podcast and people can listen to it. But can you at least break down the first 3 steps of the blueprint?
We could do. We're living a world of abundance, right?
True.
We can go ahead and do that, very quickly, right? But obviously, we talked about the first one, right? Which is, the what do you say phase, right? It's like one of those things that if you are having conversations, of course, it's going to be that guest, and then, whatever topics come out of that. But then after that is like, well, how do we actually create the thing, right? So, you, for example, do your batching of the episodes. We do a live podcast, right? So it's the actual movement of you in front of the camera. Like, how do you actually create it? Like, what are the tools that we're going to use? What's the technology behind that? After that is the production. That creation needs to be produced at some degree, right? Whether that's from moving the file from this software to the editing tool, and then after that is how do we distribute that production, right? So for example, in our show, right, we create assets, micro content, we have the main episode, you have everything else that you add on there. How do we actually distribute this? And this phase is actually hidden. Most people are like, I think I spent all my energy creation and producing this thing, and then I'm just gonna put it out there. But then guess what? There still needs some time for the promotion during the distribution of that episode, right? Whether that's a newsletter announcement, whether it's to your email, right? Micro content, tagging your guests. Like, what's that time that you're actually going to allocate that? And referring back to the publishing pyramid, we talked about your resources. So is that your team? Is that you? How do we do that? After that is how do we actually, after distributing the content, how is that connecting to our revenue source? Like, how do we actually monetize this content? Like, what's the connection? Your call to actions. I'm inviting the person that came to our show to have a conversation about future opportunities, right? If you have a do you have a low ticket offer? Do you have a high ticket offer? Like, how do you fit in the business if the podcast is related to your business, right? If it's not, are we inviting people to connect with us, to ask us questions? How do we make that connection and making sure that in every single piece of content, there's something directing to that offer, right? And then at the end of the day is how do we actually manage all this process, right? Do we have a project management tool that we keep track of the episodes, right? Where is the database of our guests? Like, how do we message the guest? How often? How do we distribute this content? And they can be like processes and tools. So very fast version, those are the stages, right? From the what do we actually say in this content all the way to how do we actually manage all this? And a very simple example of this that doesn't require too much if you're just starting out, it could be, for example, when we did 45 Live was on the what do I say is we're going to actually tell a story of something that happened to me today, and I'm going to relate it to my business, and I'm going to invite people to connect with me, right? So then the creation process was that Facebook Live. That production process is that Facebook Live. There's no production aspect.
It's hit publish.
It's hit publish. And then that distribution's the same thing, right? So you're doing all these 3 stages in that spot. And then how do we monetize? We invite people to have conversations with us on that specific topic. And then how do you manage it, right? Is through a spreadsheet. So that's how we did it, right? And then you can expand on your specific podcast or platform. And for us, Content is Profit is a little bit more complex, but it follows the same framework of those stages. And every time we're going to launch a new platform or we're helping somebody with that, we actually go through these stages. Like, how are we going to do each one of these? What are the resources? What's the capacity? What's the technology that we're going to use? What are the applications?
So here,
and so on?
let's run a fast one on Content is Profit for each one of these stages, right?
Yeah.
So on the research stage, what do we say? We use Feedly as well for news aggregator, right? Just kind of like stay on the loop on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we have a guest, we have forms for them that they fill out. And then that in there, there's resources that they share with us that we can, go and check them out and learn about them. Then the creation process for us is Riverside. We jump on Riverside and we create in there. Then we get the assets for the post-production from the roadcaster, in the creation process, like as well, the roadcaster. And then post-production, we get all the files together. We do have a team, right, that we've managed to put into, our capacity with the resources that we earn through some of the publishing that we've done. So the team takes care of that. A tool that we use is honestly Creative Cloud. All the editing that you can do in there, right, is one of the best solutions. Then what do we do for monetization? We have it baked into the show that is the relationship with our guests, right? And we have a messaging sequence, a relationship building sequence that we have with them, that we transition them into an opportunity seeking conversation, right? And then we explore that. And sometimes they are not a good fit, but guess what? They might refer you to somebody else. So that is how we personally monetize on the podcast. And then how do we put all this together, the operations? Notion. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's amazing. So we use Notion for pretty much everything. And then we just stick it in there together and it's a go.
It's a go.
It's a me. It's a Mario. It's a go. guys, I'm going to jump off stage. I jumped off a little too early there. I'm going to jump
Very
off
good.
stage. I want you to let the audience know where they can connect with you guys if they're interested in learning more about the content pyramid, how to turn their content is profit, the podcast, all that stuff, and everything else you guys do. So the floor is yours.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you guys for, giving us a chance and listen to our nonsense. And you can connect with us on social media at BizBrosCo everywhere. You can find Content is Profit on YouTube and every other single podcasting platform. And you can go to bizbros.co. There's actually a little button at the bottom right as soon as you log in, and you can send us your number one question about content, and we can help you there as well. We also have a Facebook community, Content is Profit on Facebook. So everything Content is Profit, you Google it and we'll show up. And then we're happy to connect and answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you go to Content is Profit, episode 407, we had the one and only Chris Condon, and then hopefully sometime soon we'll get you Phil on the podcast as well.
Well, definitely. I've been helping Chris with this. We're going to connect afterwards. I'm going to send you Chris through Chris. Chris is going to prod me with like a cattle. Oh my God, so much stuff, guys! I can't thank you enough for joining us here for the start of hour 2. You guys are amazing. Make sure you guys go listen to Content is Profit. The next podcaster we have. I'm going to let you guys go, but thank you again, and good luck with everything.
You. Absolutely.
Thank you, Phil. Take care.
Good luck.
Awesome, guys. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is hour 2. We're at 90 minutes into my show. You got me for 4 hours. But the next person we have coming on is an amazing podcaster. He hosts the Entrepreneur Formula podcast. Give it up for Mohammadi from Thaw Theme. Sorry, Mohammadi. I hope he's here. Mohammadi. There you are. Ooh, I can't hear you.
How about now?
Now I can hear you.
Beautiful. I'll make sure I muted myself when you was on the call with the recent guests. So now I think we're good to go.
Yeah, we are. Mohammadi, I want to thank you so much for being part of the 12-hour Master the Podcasting game that we're doing with AppSumo. Make sure you check out AppSumo Day. They have a whole bunch of stuff coming on, but that's right now. I think we have a special guest that wants to come on. I'm going to bring him on. He may be a little tired, but we got the organizer himself, the expert whisperer, Chris Coden here. Chris, welcome to the show. Coming in on my hour, even though I didn't jump into yours. It's fine. I'm not jealous at all. But Mohammadi's here to talk about Thaw Theme, how he's helping change the game for podcasters. So Mohammadi, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Man, I'm excited to be here. It's anything that Chris is doing. If I get a chance to, stick on the wall or, poke my head in and listen in, I would definitely always try to do so, because he's the guy that has literally access to an incredible amount of people within his network. And it's you cannot get enough from Chris. Literally, he would send you like, oh, I want you to meet this guy, and I want you to meet this guy. Just connecting. So I'm really excited. It's a true pleasure to be here, and I'm excited. Cannot wait to see how we can add value to everybody out there. I'm a podcaster myself. I started my journey in digital marketing, started a digital marketing agency, completely grow it to become a mainly website design focus, and we built a SaaS product called Thaw Theme, and you can see the dash on my name there. It's a platform where we help literally everybody get into the website design space without needing to have any website design expertise. And one of the things that really stood up during COVID is the understanding for business owners that, because most of them have struggled and most of them did not have a way out because they did not build a way to communicate with their clients, digitally, online. And now everybody have realized the importance of having a web presence. And a web presence can be through a social media platform, but the ultimate web presence that you control is your own asset, your own website. So my commitment is to help as many people as possible, create their own online assets, websites, websites on the internet. About 6 months ago, Chris offered to help me start my podcast, and we spent a lot of hours and a lot of hours, and at the end of those hours spent together, was able to build a really nice streamlined flow of publications. And all I have to do is get guests on board, record the content, and then publish. All the technical aspect has been, taken care of. Chris have helped me along a lot, structure those things. And personally, if you have the chance to work with Chris and Phil, you definitely should take advantage of it, because these guys, they haven't done it only once, not twice, not 3 times. They have done it many times over, and they can definitely help you get the outcome that you're looking for with your podcast. So that being said,
yeah. Now I'm flustered because you're like all being polite to me. I'm not used to this. I'm used to be throwing the flattery to the guests. So I want to thank you, Mohammadi, for that. You built your whole brand, your whole vision around websites. You know how important they are for people or for businesses to have, because brick and mortars can't rely on traffic on the street anymore, because more and more people are working back at home, or they're they're surfing the internet. We're becoming a more and more digital society. So I wanted to talk about some things that may be foreign to podcasters, because it's to business owners and entrepreneurs, they may know it, but it's like SEO.
Yeah.
And that, like, SEO obviously for a website is super important. And for a podcast as well, it needs to be used, because that's how you can find episodes. So I would like to know about maybe some SEO principles that are underrated, that are huge value to business owners and podcasters.
Yeah, most definitely. And before we even get into the SEO part, right, when we talk about, why do we need a website for your podcast in the first place, right? You have a podcast, there is all these amazing platforms that people would listen to your podcast on, but all those platforms have their own restrictions. They have their own restriction. You can only upload whatever you want them to upload. And people go on there not to go through your content and read and find a link that you posted there to click and go to your offer or go to your sponsor, or anything like that, right? They'll go on this platform just straight up to listen. Podcast number 1, they press, they listen, and move to number 2. They don't go through your content, because it's not a place to read content. It's a place to listen to content. But having a website, having a website for your podcast, what it really does is it allows you to put all your assets that you want your listeners to engage with in one place. You have your podcast embed that you can choose the embed from any platform, Apple or Spotify or Amazon. Like Spotify is Amazon. Like from whichever platform you want, and have it there, and also be able to add all the other sections. Also, hey, this is the episode with Phil, for instance. Under the episode with Phil, you can learn more about Phil, and they can click a button and see a full page that you can write something about Phil, what Phil is doing, and what Phil have put together for your specific audience, right? What if it's an offer, or if it's an extra resource, you can showcase it like that, and people will be able to follow a sequence to be able to make the most out of every episode. Because you're talking about it with a guest, we're going to share some resources later so you guys can engage with. Okay, where's the resource? It's going to be on the link. How do they find it? Go on the podcast platform. But having a podcast, like a website for a podcast, will help you be able to lay out things in a way that would make a lot more, make the process more streamlined. When they listen, they can find the resources as easy as possible. And the other aspect, now your question, Phil, about SEO, the importance of SEO that can contribute to, like your podcast performing better, right? If you think of someone like myself or Chris, right? You go Chris Countdown on YouTube, on Facebook, on Google, for instance, Chris Countdown podcast. Number 1, you're gonna see a podcast of Chris, right? Chris talking to other experts, maybe not Chris being interviewed, but you're gonna see a bunch of stuff. If you're looking to listen Chris being interviewed by someone else, maybe it will take you some time to find it, right? But understanding that when you are publishing your understanding that, like, just considering this scenario, right? If you're publishing your own content about you talking to a guest, knowing this aspect would allow you to work the titles, work the descriptions in a way that the search engine would understand that this is Chris talking to this person, talking to Mohammadi, for instance, about website design, about SEO, not Chris and Mohammadi talking about SEO website design. Chris talking to Mohammadi, or like Mohammadi sharing some valuable content about website design and SEO. Like, SEO have like the technical part of it, but there's a common sense to it as well. And a lot of time we think that there is something in the technical side of it that we need to really figure out. But when we step back, because we all have inherited the same type of content that we have been consuming over the last few years, right? And we engage almost the same way. If you're looking to hear Chris talk about how to create a podcast, you're going to go on Google and you're going to type Chris sharing podcast tips. Chris sharing tips on how to have a successful podcast, or top 10 podcasts, right? That keyword, ask yourself, okay, if somebody was to look for your podcast about your guests, what would be the type of title they would want to type to find this podcast, right? And you figure out that title. When you figure out the title, you can go ahead and publish with that in mind, knowing that it's going to be a lot easier for people to find it. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. It's like when I'm going to be titling, like, let's say I have Chris on. I just recently actually interviewed Chris for the first time. It took about 2 years, but we got there, Chris. We got there. It's like Chris said, like you said, it's intentional search engine. So if Chris, we were talking about the podcast launch agency, the accelerator that helps podcasters or entrepreneurs launch their podcast in 30 days, which you were one of the cohorts on that for your the Entrepreneurs Formula, and you've been having amazing guests, and I highly suggest people check it out because it's a mastermind. The way you've been able to get the guests that you have, but it's making sure that if someone's going to be searching for Chris and I want them to find my podcast, is making sure, getting into the mindset of who's searching for this, who's the individual that I want to. And again, it always goes back to the audience. Like, always remember your audience first, because they're going to help grow your podcast. So making it easy for them to find those episodes, either in the podcast tool, but also when they search Google, so that either they're finding the link to Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all the other ones, or straight to the website. So yeah, no, it's in SEO is intentionally. I think we get it because it sounds so technical and it was so new to the world, because like the internet's only like 30, 40 years old, right? And so SEO has to be this really complex thing because no one really understands it. But what you're saying is that it's fairly simple.
100%. It's fairly simple. There's two underlining aspects when it comes to SEO, right? It's authority and relevancy. And how you want to, like, how you position yourself. Like, if you're just new in the market, authority, as far as authority goes, you are 0. And as far as relevancy goes, maybe you have 1 or 2 because you just started you're talking about a specific topic, right? So your all like work in SEO is figuring out, how can I be more authoritative than my competitor? How can I be more relevant than my competitor? Because there's literally 2 audiences. We're not only working for SEO, you think about your audience, like what you just said, right? Audience, number 1. Number 2, competitor. Consider those 2 sides, and then you work as much as you can on your content to be able to align as far as relevancy goes, to like align in the way that your clients, your audience will relate to it, and also work on your authority so you can slowly climb up the ladder of your competitor. You know, it's like, let's say you're working on the podcast space. Let's say I want to publish a podcast that I did with Chris, right? I'm going to look who else have interviewed Chris. Who else have interviewed Chris? And I can see, okay, this person interviewed Chris. This person interviewed Chris. Okay, who has the most listen? Who has the most, you know, most
authority,
like a lot of analytics, a lot of data, right? Like who have gotten more listens or more views? Okay, this guy have gotten more listen or more views. If you go on Google and search, chances are that that person is going to be the one coming up first. What did he do right? You go and look at that person, try to like, okay, let me take his title down and see what's up with his title, right? We go through his title. Okay, what's up with his description? This is what he have put in his description. Okay, interesting. I don't know nothing else, but I know that his title and his description have given him enough relevancy for Google to put him number one. So what can we get out of leverage from that, right? You go and see how you can create a title that is better than his, how you can create a description that is better than his. And now we're on the authority side now. Okay, what do you do to create authority on the internet? You create authority on the internet by leveraging other platforms or websites that have already been like being given authority by the internet, in this case by the search engine. Okay, so there is podcast distribution channels. The more channels you publish, the more authority you're going to gain, right? Okay, so the person that have the most views on Chris's podcast, chances are that he have been published in many more platforms than the other people. It's like, okay, how can I be distributed how can I distribute my podcast, this specific podcast, to as many platforms as possible? So let's go try to figure that out, right? Now, let's say your amount of platforms is, you know, your relevancy, your titles and your description is top notch. You have distributed to as many platforms as possible, like more than him. Chances are not now you can at least stand in the same ring with that number one, because you have gotten certain things right. One of the things that you need on your side now is time, because if he's been out there for so long, you're not going to just be the new kid in the corner coming in to sweep everybody out. You're just going to have to have patience and let the search engine find out about all the hard work that you have done. And within time, you're going to be able to see the final result of your hard work, which would entail the search engine knowing that, oh, he have done more than everybody else when it comes to publication, and his titles and descriptions is top notch as well. So let's move him up the ladder. And that's how you achieve authority. And I think it's like pretty much same for a website, and I'm assuming it would be the same for podcasts as well. Because every single podcast that I post on, like, I have my titles described in a specific way, right? Not like with the SEO mind. And when you're in the space, you automatically think like that. Number one, you consider the client. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter how keyword stuff the title is. If no user is going to look for that specific queries, those specific queries, it's not going to get you any traffic. You can have a lot of keyword. If it doesn't make sense, you're not going to get the traffic that you need to have, because people are going to do the search. So I think this is a little bit technical, I believe. Or
it's fine, because you're giving at least a taste of what our audience, these upcoming podcasters and entrepreneurs that are going in, they're learning about, oh, this is something I need to think about. Like, what is my ideal audience searching for? That's what I should be like. That can help me with the title. Plus, you're going the next layer deeper. Go look at the other people who have interviewed your guests, see what they're doing, how they're performing, and see maybe is there something that you can improve upon what they're saying. Not copy, but improve upon what they have. I always like asking this from the guests on the show because it just makes it a little interesting. But I take it you're a fan of AppSumo.
Oh yeah.
As an entrepreneur, I would be very surprised if you weren't at least aware of it. What is one tool or one sale, one item, one program, one thing on AppSumo that you would, if you had to start over again, would be the first one that you would buy? It could be a former sale, it could be a new sale. It's something that you would be like, this is the tool that I need to use.
Mostly because it's like, come on, it's a game changer. You know,
it is an amazing tool. That's two for BCast. That's two for BCast. Hopefully they'll bring it back on if they can. Noah can reach out to Tom Hunt, the creator and founder of BCast and Fame. Mohammed, I would like to know a bit more about your web design agency masterclass that you have going on, because from a little birdie, let me know how amazing that it is, and I would love to hear it from you. What do you guys do? What is it about?
Pretty much, like, the overall idea is that I would say it makes money. Otherwise, I would say it's a passion project, right? But since I came from Africa, right? Like, I came to this country, no English, eventually learned English, and I was presented with an opportunity to start an agency, a marketing agency, which I did not believe, like, personally, I didn't think that this is something that I would find myself doing because of the level of knowledge, and like, I didn't have no clue I wasn't that savvy in the internet either. It's surprisingly, it's 2013. I just came from Africa. I had a computer in Africa, but I was using it mostly to play game because internet was not widespread at that time. The only place you can get internet is at school. Once you leave school, I just play games. So did not venture into the internet as much. So I was literally like a brand new, like zero knowledge when it comes to the internet. And I was presented with this opportunity of starting an agency, a marketing agency, an SEO agency. And for some reason, just listening to like Mike Long talk about, you can do this, anybody can do this. You have processes and system. All you need is to just do exactly what we tell you to do, and you get the success. Sure enough, I convinced myself to take my $8,000 savings and invest in the program. And this is one of the things too, right? Like, a great program should cost a good amount, because if you pay few dollars for it, chances are that you're not going to put the commitment that you need to put in, right? So what I did was I put this as like my 2-year saving. I was working in a sneaker store in the basement, stocking shoes, making $300 a week. So you can only imagine how many weeks it took me to get to that point, right? But I made the commitment to, like, okay, from everything that I'm hearing, seems like this is something I can do. And I made the investment. A year later, I was not only like, I was maybe like $5,000 a month a year later, right? Like, I'm ranking. I can go Google myself on the internet and I look like a big shot. I have a website and a business number. All of a sudden, from not being able to get a job because you don't speak English, to having companies at the size of 1-800-junk calling you, millions of dollar company calling you for SEO consulting sessions, right? Having a company offer you a massive office in a co-working space because they know that the business rely on your hand and you can help them grow, right? And none of this was not going to be possible if I did not have the opportunity to join a program like OMG, right? So fast forward 5 years later, everything else, life is completely different from where it started. And I believe the least amount of gratitude I can show to the world, or to God for blessing me with that opportunity in 2016, is to work as hard as possible to create something that I can offer to somebody that is at the same position where I was in 2016, to be able to come in, learn the skills, and follow the exact resources and assets that we have created for them, and go ahead and get one client, two clients, three clients, and create a life that is currently different from the life they're living. And we launched it. That's how Tower Theme Mastermind, website design agency mastermind, came about. Share with people all the resources, all the assets that I've built for the last 5-6 years in website design, and anybody that get access to the mastermind have access to all those tools, all the reputation, all the website we have done. They leverage it as their own websites, right? They have prospecting, how to prospect. Fulfillment is 100% taken care of by Tower Theme, by the company. They don't have to worry about fulfillment. All they need to do is prospect and build great relationship with their clients and just collect up to 70% margin in anything they offer to their clients. So
that is an amazing mastermind, an amazing opportunity for people. So if you are interested, make sure you check out Towel Theme and everything else. Of course, you can check the show notes later when this goes live, but also in the chat, it's there now. Go over and check it out. The gentleman just below me is a member of that, and he's crushing it with his.
Yeah, I would just like to jump in if I can, Phil.
Of course. It's not like it's my time to shine. Not like you had 4 hours before. Go ahead, Chris. Go jump right in. You know what, Chris? Here, I'll make it real easy for you.
No,
Goodbye.
Oh, that's funny. I just wanted to let's invite him back. That's not fair. Phil, I wanted to make sure that I appeared at the talk with Mohammadi, and you're doing a fantastic job. And you are. It's great that we can delegate and have great people around us like Phil and Mike, who will be joining later on. But I just want to step in and say thanks to Mohammadi that I was invited to be one of the first of many. Well, first of maybe like 18 or so people to be a part of the first web design agency. And I can tell you, he gives you everything step by step. And what's great about the podcast launch community is it's my baby, it's Phil's baby, it's Mike's baby. And all the assets that are available to us are going to be leveraged as much as possible to support everybody in the podcast launch community. So if you join the podcast accelerator, which we've only spoken about briefly, but that is our mastermind, a bit similar to Mohammadi's mastermind, where we give you everything. We're going to set you up with a custom built professional website. We're going to help you set up the systems you need to launch a really great podcast, and we're going to give you access.
That podcast.
Yeah,
on a regular
continue
basis.
Exactly. And then we're going to give you access to advanced training resources. We'll have Mohammadi behind the scenes. We'll have Deirdre behind the scenes. We'll have Blaine behind the scenes. We'll have all the experts that are appearing on this event, sharing some advanced strategies with you to take your podcast to the next level. We're not launching podcasts, we're growing and we're scaling podcasts with the help of our support network and resources and assets that are available to us right now. So if that's not a big enough reason to get involved in the web design mastermind or the accelerator, I don't know what is. But back to you, Phil, and thanks, Mohammadi.
Mohammadi, we are coming up close to the end here, and I'm going to miss you but we do have plans to be on each other's podcast, which I'm looking forward to because you've had some amazing guests. Do you mind just sharing like maybe one or two of the guests that you've been able to have on your podcast?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. About a week and a half ago, I had a guest on. She's a woman from Canada. She just sold a young woman from Canada. She just sold her business for $100 million. And she sold it on Friday, and she was at my house here on Saturday for the podcast. So it was really interesting. I have like a really, really nice list of guests that are coming on the podcast. One of the recent one that I had on was Hassan Zealand, and the lady her name is Katie K. And yeah, maybe I'll share her Instagram or something. Maybe Phil, you guys are on the same side of the world. And that was, by the way, her 17th business she have sold.
Wow.
And she's in her 30s. Yeah.
This is a beast.
So she's a rock star, most definitely. Another guest that I had recently was, Aston Zealand. Got an incredible podcast. On the podcast, he casually mentioned that he just bought a private jet. that he's like, and he's like in his 20s, like casually. He's
Just casually,
28
just
or 27. It's like, oh, just we have the private jets and the luxury cars, and I was like, private jet. I was like, yeah. So pretty much you have a private jet that he charters, right? He flies for himself, and every time that he's not flying, he just charters it. It pays for the plane, right? He have a great income, passive income coming from the plane that he owns just to travel, right? So listening, and he's a passive income expert. And those are like the type of people that I bring on the podcast to share the entrepreneurial journey from Huston Zealand being 4 years old, trying to figure out how to optimize his time, to now owning a passive income. He's the youngest passive income expert in the world. I've gotten 4 covers back to back, and and he's in his early career start, and he's helping us like a lot of people create passive income streams through different types of investments. So you can go check his podcast. You can just look in Google or YouTube, Mohammadi and Huston Zealand, and you will see the incredible podcast I did with him. It's really, really insightful for anybody that is looking to create passive income.
Excellent. Mohammadi, myself and Chris are going to jump off stage here. We're going to let you tell us tell the audience where they can find you, how they can connect with you, the websites, the podcast, everything you want. Oh, Chris just jumped already. So I guess that's my cue to jump. The floor, sir, is yours.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Phil, for having me. This was a really, really amazing experience. And for all of you guys watching, you can find me at Mohammadi Works. Mohammadi Works on any social media platform. You get to see more of my personal stuff. But if you want to see more of the business stuff, just go to Facebook and look for Tower Theme Facebook group, and you will be able to see the Tower Theme Facebook group. You can request to join, and definitely go to towertheme.com and create an account just to look into the ecosystem and look around and see the amount of asset and resources we provide for you on the platform. It's really, really insightful, and you guys can make the most out of it. If you have any question for me personally, just feel free to send me a DM on Facebook or on Instagram at Mohammadi Works, and I'll be more than happy to chat with you guys. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Mohammadi, thank you so much. I love how Chris just jumped in there at the same time as I did. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you. Sorry, I just got distracted. Messaging back, Chris is messaging me, and Lloyd's messaging me, the next guest. So, Mohammadi, thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being part of this 12-hour event. And guys, make sure you check out his podcast, The Entrepreneur Formula. It is vital for anybody looking to get into the entrepreneurial world. So, Mohammadi, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, that's
Chris. So we have a few minutes. We have a few seconds before Lloyd comes up because he used the wrong link, but that's fine. Chris, how are you feeling? It's what is this? We're 6 hours in. We're halfway through this. How are you feeling for your first huge event that you put together in record time?
Oh my goodness, hasn't it been fantastic? I think credit goes to all the planning, and it looks like that we've already got a guest coming in. Well-planned event. Yeah, it's going really well. I took a little bit of a break and got some food, and yeah, I'm ready to come off the screen and leave you to it.
Awesome, Chris.
I will be back in about half an hour's time.
Chris, always a pleasure to talk with you. See you in a bit. Now, introducing an award-winning podcaster himself. His podcast recently won the Best Business Marketing Podcast, Money Grows on Trees. It is my good friend, the millionaire money mentor himself, Mr. Lloyd Ross.
Hey, what's up, men? Hey, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
It's always a pleasure.
Nice to see you. And now I'm off.
See you later, Chris.
Lloyd, thank you very much for showing up here. I know your time is valuable since you are the millionaire money mentor, helping hundreds of people create financial freedom through your podcast, your books. So I thank you very much for showing up.
You bet, man. I'll do anything.
All right.
Man, I hope you're out.
That's right. So for people to know how I am connected with Lloyd, and Lloyd is connected with us here at the Podcast Launch Agency. Lloyd was my first client. I helped launch his podcast off the back of his book after he was a guest on my podcast. And I was like, you should have a podcast. And he didn't believe he should. And now he's an award-winning podcaster.
Crazy, huh? That was only 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was 2 years. We're on 2 years now. 18 months after that, you crushed it with your podcast. Introduce yourself. Let everybody know a bit about you.
Well, my name's Lloyd Ross. I'm based in Australia and financial coach and mentor, financial education business. We have a podcast, Money Grows on Trees, that's, been doing good, huh? I wrote a couple of books, Money Buys Happiness and Money Grows on Trees. And we have a 2 Comma Club award-winning business. And I've also got a network marketing business, 7-figure network marketing business. So, things are good. Love investing, love helping people, love teaching, and love podcasting.
All right. So you use your podcast in conjunction with your 2-figure comma to funnel to help people not only learn more about you, get the extra education from the books, an added bonus. What other value do you see in your podcast?
Well, I think it's really important. It acts like a freemium. People come in for free for the podcast, and it warms them up, builds trust and rapport. I was talking to a guy the other day. He just invested in a 12-month mentorship program, and he said, I was listening to your podcast. He was referred to the podcast by a friend, and he was listening for a year, and then came in. So really good freemium. Like, it really does build trust and rapport. But it's a great place to send the database. When they buy the book, they get a link to the podcast to listen to that too. So they can continue the learning journey on after they purchase one of my books through Facebook ads. And that obviously helps the podcast to scale to get a lot of listeners, because they're running ads, $30,000 of ads a month. So it's what helps it, just so you know. It's not organic. There's some organic, but the other thing that it helps with, though, I think, we haven't really tapped into this much at all, but it helps with networking. So, like, obviously, if you bring a guest on, it's weird. Like, people, you tell someone you got a podcast and it's got some good numbers behind it, it's so strange. Like, they think it's this like CNN network. It's bizarre. So, like, for example, last week we had Sharon Lecter join as a guest. Now, she's the original co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a huge guest. She's a big entrepreneur, commissioned by 2 presidents, created the cash flow business with Robert Kiyosaki, wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women. Like, she's a beast. And she was on the podcast. So without the podcast, that introduction would never have happened. We've had Dr. John Martini come on, which was great. So these types of characters, I haven't really progressed it, but I think it's a wonderful connecting tool, networking tool, as well as education, freemium, and rapport and trust builder.
I love that, and it's true. As some of our previous, like, this whole event is actually a networking tool through the podcast that Chris put together. Because if he didn't have his podcast, he wouldn't have made these connections, so we wouldn't have been able to do this huge event. I love how you focused in on how it is a very big networking tool, because you have such limited guests on the podcast. And I have to say the episode with I just lost her name, the author Sharon was phenomenal off the bat. It was great. One of the bonuses of being your producers, I get to listen to everything before everybody else, so I get the lessons.
Everyone's been asking me for the episode. Like, the episode will attract a lot of new listeners into the show, but you're the only one that's ever heard it. And me, I don't remember what I said, so I don't really heard it either.
No, yes, it's a great episode. You didn't fumble the bag, so you can be proud of that. You crushed it as a host.
A friend of mine, his name is Fraser Brooks. I'll get him on the show, actually. He's got a big podcast, and he said to me, "How did the interview go with Sharon?" I said, it was just an audio of me for 30 minutes shitting myself.
Well, I can tell you, there was no shitting. You did a fantastic job. So you can pass that off to Fraser and let him know one person has listened to it and loved it.
Cool.
Cool. So you're in the coaching business, you're in the finances business, you wrote your book. Are you a fan of AppSumo?
What's AppSumo?
It's fine. Not everybody knows what AppSumo is. It's a large marketplace for entrepreneurs that have a whole bunch of tools that you can get lifetime deals. So the hosting platform that we use for the podcast was from there. It's called Bcast, but there's TidyCal, there's SendFox, these tools that allow creatives to have access for cheap. So like SendFox is a mail manager. So obviously you use a mail manager because you have your weekly newsletter. But for someone who doesn't have the capital, they can use something like SendFox, which is a very not a bare bones, but a very slimmed down version of something like Mailchimp and all that. So, and TidyCal is like Calendly. It allows you to book links and all that. Instead of paying for a monthly fee, you can pay one time or use the freemium version of it. This is that. So we'll move on to another question then.
Well, that's no. I'm just looking at AppSumo now. Like, I've never seen it. This is cool. Like, Teachify. Like, it's got course.
Yeah, there are courses. Chris has his podcast SEO on there. Not SEO, sorry, SOP on there. They have a whole bunch of great tools that you can use, and new ones are always being added. Like before, we just had Cast Magic on, who's I'm going to start using them on your podcast because they're going to be able to create a lot of content and for you and the podcast, take it to the next level. Apparently, yeah, our fellow guy Mike Cav is saying that you need to get on. You'll probably enjoy a lot of their software that's there. Lloyd is right now is probably just fishing around, seeing everything that's there.
I'm on this thing now. Yeah, it's interesting. Podcast launch strategy. Yeah, it's got some good stuff here. I mean, you could spend all day on here, really.
Oh yeah, you can also spend a pretty penny, and then your millions would probably disappear on this with all the stuff they have.
Wow, they got free stuff on here too.
Yeah, there is a lot of free stuff. Their AppSumo originals. A lot of them are free, and there's some paid. Obviously, you can buy the lifetime deal for around $30 to $50 on some of the original stuff. It's a great tool. But you, like Mike says, you need to be careful because if they have your credit card, you will buy everything on there. And Mike should know his wife yells at him constantly. But yes, I want to get into how you got into becoming a personal finance coach and why you're helping others get their freedom through finances. So what was it that sparked your journey into personal finance?
Good question. What sparked my own personal journey into finance originally was that I didn't really want to be financially independent. So I wanted to learn how to invest so that I could get my assets working for me, just like what Sharon wrote about in her book. And I told her that. I said, my grade 10 English teacher really encouraged me to read your book when I was a teenager. And she said, that's great. I said, it really taught me to buy assets. It just took a while to get work and start earning money and buying assets. But I remember those lessons. So the objective was to buy assets to be able to, become independent of a job. That what happened was on my journey of learning about investing and so forth, I became a big fan of Warren Buffett, learned his strategy, how he approaches things, have been a student of value investing with the greats ever since then, and built a 7-figure portfolio up over time, and still learning, obviously. But all those lessons I've learned in the last, 15 years, I didn't realize that a lot of people just haven't learned those lessons. They just weren't focused around money management or investing or anything like that. They're kind of illiterate financially. And it wasn't until a friend of mine said to me, hey, I was, boxing with him and doing one of his programs. And he said to me, hey, you should really write a book about, your knowledge around money and side hustles and so forth. So that's what prompted the first book, Money Grows on Trees, to be written. And it was just based on a digital book into a course to help people take the first steps to managing their money. So it just emerged over time. When I saw a gap in the market, quite a wide gap, and I think it's a widening gap in the financial literacy space. And I think financial literacy has probably never been so bad in the world. So that's probably what has prompted this whole business into financial education coaching.
So when someone decides to sign up with your coaching, what is the normal practice? How are they coming in with any ideas? Are they coming in completely like not like a baby going into school for the first time? What do you normally see?
Well, they all have to come through my book, so they all read this this book. Yeah, this is the main one that we're marketing, Money Buys Happiness. So they'll get this book. It's $9 digital. They get a free audio book and some bonuses with that. And then we have a Facebook group they come into, which is about 3,500 people now almost. And they get links to the podcast, my Instagram. There's content on my Instagram, my YouTube channel. The podcast is obviously very valuable. They read the book. They get to know me because I'm actually reading the audio book too. So it's building that trust. And then after they buy the book, they can elect to buy one of our courses on micro investing or our copy paste money plan for like $30-$40. And then what happens is if they want actual hands-on help, they simply book in a call with one of our financial coaches. And they then do like 2 coaching calls for them for no charge. And they see if they're a good fit for one of our main mentorship program, which is 12 months. And if they're ready for that and they're a good fit, then they begin. And they come into that with an onboarding call. They do a discovery call with me one-on-one. We get some goals down pat. We have a ton of content they go through. And I do 2 live calls a week with them and give them instant access to me for 12 months in WhatsApp.
There we go.
Yeah,
when you were coming up with the concept of your first book, Money Grows on Trees, which then became the podcast, Money Grows on Trees, the podcast, was your creative process different? Because obviously writing a book is one way. It's you're sitting down typing or you're talking it out. But when you're coming up with podcast episodes, is it similar to the writing the book, or is it completely...
Yeah, good question. I think what it is, the book you've kind of already written in your head. Like, you have to have a story of some sort that's a little bit unique when you write a book. Like a personal story of how you've applied certain principles and had some wins and overcome some challenges, and you have a bit of a framework in your head. So like at the time I wrote my book, we had earned $1 million in network marketing, which is quite a rare thing to do. Mm-hmm. And we'd invested that to $1 million, which is also a rare thing to do. So those 2 kind of rarities, those experiences of we made $1 million in a side hustle, plus we invested it, and we traveled the world in our 30s. I mean, that's quite a compelling story. So it was just like the steps about how we went about doing that. And it's very basic. It's only a 60-page book. So it wasn't big. It was just, these are the concepts and principles and the stories that go with it in my head. So it's kind of like 7 secrets of, getting your money together, or, showing you how money grows on trees if you know how to plant the right seeds. So the whole fable, the parable thing is throughout that book, but it was just, it didn't take that long. I just think that I needed accountability to sit down and do it, because everyone has a book in their head, but they just rarely make the time to sit down and just prioritize it beyond everything else. So when you're writing a book, you have to kind of prioritize it beyond almost anything else for 4 weeks. You just got to sit down and just flip and write for 4 weeks. And it's fairly brutal. Like, writing is not necessarily enjoyable. It's much easier to record audio for obvious reasons. It is for me anyway. Maybe for others it's not, but so it's far more challenging to write a book than it is to do podcasting. Our Money Buys Happiness book, 240 pages, that took me another 4 weeks, and it was fairly brutal. It was like running a bit of a marathon, and I much prefer to do podcast episodes than write books. But here's the thing, I actually wish I had done started a podcast years ago.
Oh.
Because it would have actually made writing the books cinch. I would have got a ghostwriter in, say, hey, listen to all the 100 episodes or 200 episodes of the podcast. Tell me which ones you like the best. Let's put a book together. And you can download the transcripts and you can give it to a ghostwriter and they can write a lot of it. And, podcasting, if you're going to do anything to begin a business, like if you've got a business idea of any sort, or you're wanting to build something, you got to have a personal brand around most businesses now. And the easiest content to produce and do is a podcast. It's free to effectively produce the content. It's very simple. You can do it straight from your iPhone. I do anyway, with a Rode mic, this one. And it's, it's very digestible content. People love it. People are starting to learn more about it. They listen to podcasts in the car. You can really, it's the best thing to do to start a business.
Now, you've been a guest on a few dozen podcasts. And have you taken some of what they do into what you do for your production?
Yeah, well, well, my wife she's more of she listens differently to me. So like she'll listen to how they do certain episodes and so forth, and she'll share something with me like, hey, you'll notice on this episode, they kind of share their own products and stuff at the beginning of the episode, because our podcast doesn't have ads. You got to self-promote your stuff. Mm-hmm. So she said, Fraser does his stuff at the start. He talks about his Telegram at the start and his products and book. And so I started doing, I haven't even noticed on our episodes lately, but I've started doing that more at the start of the episode, to send them down the links in the show notes early so that they go and execute and it's a call to action. And so I guess those types of lessons I think I've learned, where there's different things, the structure of it has probably changed and will continue to evolve to get better. So I think that's what I've learned the most in terms of listening to other podcasts, I think.
What's next? Okay, you've already written your second book. I already know there's probably a third one coming. I don't want to announce that too much, but you did mention that you're looking for a trilogy, but what else is on the horizon for you?
Yeah, it's very challenging to write books because you've got to market the books. Right, truthfully, writing a book again is not that hard, actually. Like, especially not with ChatGPT around now, but it's not that hard. It's marketing the book that's challenging. So it's like, well, how does this book fit into this market niche? Is it in high demand? Right? Is it going to be effective? So I'm not about to write another book because we just don't have the need to add it into the funnel. It's so hard to market it, right?
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you just have that one that was just released, Money Buys Happiness. So.
Yeah, we only released that like a year and a bit ago, 18 months ago. It's only new. So we're still going well. We sell 450, 500 of them a month. Yeah, so yeah, you got to do lots of stuff to market a book properly. No one makes money in books. You don't just write a book and all of a sudden you're famous. It's part of a bigger business. It's a loss leader. It's part of a book funnel, and then the coaching offer. So I think our goal is to get our coaching business to a certain level of revenue. That would be our goal. And, obviously helps a lot more people. Get it to sort of, helping 25 new people start a month or something like that. Scaling that business is our objective. Exploring some Instagram strategies and stuff like that. Continuing to slowly build a YouTube channel. It's very slow, and then getting more awards for the podcast and getting more downloads for the podcast, more followers. Be good to get 1 million downloads. Getting some big hitting guests. I mean, I've got a few guests in mind now after Sharon to bring onto the show to help build its credibility. I think to answer your question, man, it's like just scaling what we've already built. Marketers are really good. We're really good at creating new shit. Like, oh, with this work, that's awesome. Now let's go create something new. It's pretty silly. Like I remember Russell Brunson, he was interviewing someone and they said, marketers are good at just recreating stuff and they don't need to. So we've already got a great selling book. We've already got a great, wonderful book funnel and coaching program and everything like that. We've got a great podcast. We have everything in place. So I think to answer your question is scaling what we have.
Okay. No, that's fair. And it is when you hit a comfortable level where everything's working fine, that's when you need to start turning off the gas and seeing how big you can get it before it breaks, and then you have to go in and fix it, right? Because that's the story of life with podcasters. If you could give some advice to someone about to start their own podcast, and they may not have a book, they may have a product or a service, what advice would you give them to help them get that two comma club, that win that you had for their funnel?
Well, starting a podcast is important because it gets you your message out there. You see what content hits, what lands, builds you a good network, gets you well known in the space as an expert. It doesn't have to be you interviewing people. It can be snippets of value and education based on your experience. But a podcast will get you a taste for business. So it's like if you can't do one episode a week for 2, 3, 4 years, you have no business being in business because it's easy. Podcasting is a flipping cinch compared to a business build. So if you can't commit to an episode a week, then you've got to stick at it until you do, because that's what business is about. It's about persistence, consistency, showing up and continually talking about one particular topic. So it'll help you get clear on your message. What you've got to do if you have some sort of offer where you're an expert, and you're trying to monetize that, obviously your podcast is a perfect lead-in content strategy. And I think Gary Vaynerchuk says, there's not that many podcasts around you. It's a good time to be in podcasting. But you'd want to have some sort of business strategy behind it, where if you're offering courses or coaching or something like that, you really need a funnel in place where they buy stuff and then come and book calls with you, and you make sales. And that's how you get to build a business. You have to be making sales. But I would think that the piece of advice would be, find a niche. You have to be niche down. So like me, it's around money and investing. My wife says hers is around like social media and reels. So with a podcast, it has to be niche. You can't just say some broad thing. Okay, it's got to be kind of niche down. So you're attracting a specific audience. So you got to look back at your life and say, well, what am I good at? What do people come to me and ask for help for that I don't get paid for? How do I already solve people's problems? What am I known for? What can I speak spontaneously about any time off the cuff? What it looks like work to others but feels like play for me? These are all good questions to ask yourself to figure out what it is you're good at and a specialist at. And that's what you should start a podcast on. But when you start a podcast, you don't need all the equipment. As I said before, like this and this is all bullshit, is all I have.
Let's not break your mic. We need you on that mic.
I stick it in there. I go and hit the app, the
voice record.
Yeah. And then I record the episodes and flick them over to Phil, and he does all the magic. So obviously getting someone like Phil on your side to assist with production is important. Without Phil, I would never have started a podcast, because I was overwhelmed with oh shit, I've got to get all the mics and all this software and interview people. And that was just not the case. I think we just went with just a basic little setup, and I think it worked really well. So don't let that get in your way, but obviously talk to Phil about what you can do with the podcast and go for it.
It's very true. Having someone mentor like you're mentoring people to make the millions that they need to have through investing and personal finance. I mentor people through podcasting, helping them grow their podcast to the levels where they can become an award-winning podcaster, like Lloyd over here. And I do suggest you check out the Money Grows on Trees podcast, because probably in 2 weeks, there's going to be a huge episode. It's the guest episode, and it is chef's kiss. It is phenomenal because of the knowledge that's being shared by someone who's worked with some of the greats like Robert Kiyosaki and writing books that have helped so many other people. I can't thank you enough, Lloyd, for honestly, I've told Lloyd this before, but if it wasn't for Lloyd, my business wouldn't be where it's at today. I wouldn't be on a thing connected with amazing people from AppSumo, Chris, if it wasn't for Lloyd, who took a chance on me and said, yeah, sure, let's do this podcast. And now he's an award-winning podcaster, and I can't thank you enough, Lloyd.
Well, you put the award in for us. Without you, we podcast. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That is Chris's favorite saying as well. Teamwork makes the dream work. Lloyd, I'm going to jump off here. I want you to let everybody know where they can find you, how they can connect with you, so that they can start planting their money trees.
All right. Well, best way to connect with me is Instagram at Lloyd James Ross is my Instagram, or if you want to grab our book, moneybuyshappinessbook.com. That's it. See you later.
There we go. Lloyd, I thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait for everybody to hear your episodes and become fans of your work.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Take care.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to bring on the co-host again because he's wanting to come on because he's very happy with this next guest, who he has already interviewed. But we have Alex Nietzsche. Alex Valentina? Sorry, I apologize. I was reading the wrong one. Alex Valentina. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for being here. You are someone who's just reading a bit that Chris has shared with me and what a bit of the resources that I looked at. You have done a lot with a brand new platform that's not many people have done. So I'm going to ask you, please quickly introduce yourself.
First of all, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate to be here. It's, by the way, 2 a.m. here in Bulgaria, so it's quite late.
Thank you so much for staying up so late for us.
No, it's pleasure. It's pleasure. So real quick, my name is Alex Valentine, and I do own a marketing agency based in the UK, but I've moved to Bulgaria quite recently. And I'm helping coaches, consultants, and pretty much everyone who have something in here sell it through different kind of platforms. Most recently, I've started to use TikTok, try to experiment with it, and it turns out that it's been a pretty good platform to use. So I want to share you guys my strategies and how you can utilize TikTok to the very maximum to get some more leads.
And that is very important for both podcasters and entrepreneurs, because podcasters, their leads are listeners, and entrepreneurs, their leads are dollars in their pockets. So I want to talk with, so your strategy, if you can give us a broad overview. I don't want you to give away your secrets because we want people to come to you to get that. So what is the overview of your strategy with TikTok and how you hit over or close? You hit 1 million likes in less than 45 days, which is super impressive.
Yeah, it's actually over 1 million likes. It's
over 1 million as of now. Of course, now it's over 1 million. I apologize for selling you short, sir.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I've been podcasting for 2.5 hours. You know, I'm a little tired. I may have misread that. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. So just to share everyone what my numbers really looks like. So I've launched my TikTok account like less than 60 days. It's been like 48, maybe like 50 days. Started from ground zero. Haven't spent even a single penny on paid ads. I grew the account completely organically, and I literally went from 0 to like 75,000+ followers, 1.2 million likes, more than four maybe 500,000 likes. I mean, numbers are absolutely crazy. Organically, haven't touched even a single penny on ad. So the growth's been crazy. So I actually want to share my secret tools with everybody in here. So guys, listen up. The strategy, I call this strategy KISS. It's actually keep it stupid simple. Like, it's very, very simple. So a very high overview of what does this strategy looks like. So first of all, I'm using TikTok as a awareness platform. As we know, the attention span for people is like very short. You have a couple of seconds to grab their attention. Then you have maybe 2 or 3 seconds to hold their attention. So this is exactly what I'm doing there. I'm just grabbing people's attention and I'm trying to hold it as much time as possible, which is right around 20% of the people that are watching my TikTok videos are actually like watching the whole thing. So what I'm doing is quite simple. I am sharing my thoughts and opinions in different topics, which is basically relationships. And I'm funneling those people to my Instagram profile. From then on, my Instagram profile is like very hyper conversion wise optimized, which is highlights, posts, which are story posts, value posts, and call to action posts. And also I'm using story marketing to share client results, my own results, my lifestyle, and the things that I'm doing on a daily basis to not only convince people like that my stuff works, but also to encourage them, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is why I'm doing it, this is how it can have it, which is, by the way, the WWWH strategy that I'm also using on Instagram. From then on, they're pretty much DMing me, hey, I'm really interested to learn what do you do. I'm funneling into a very simple 5-minute VSL. They watch the VSL. By the end of the VSL, I have a word, DM me the word start. They DM me the word start, and I'm selling them over a DM or over a call if it's more than a 2K sale. That's pretty much it.
That is a very, as you say, it's a very KISS. I know it as keep it simple, stupid, but keep it stupidly simple is even better, I think, and less insulting to some people. But yeah, that is an amazing strategy. So from TikTok to Instagram to the DMs, to a VSL, back to the DMs or a phone call to lock them in for your sale. Now, what is your strategy behind TikTok? Because you've given us your overview of how you make them go from TikTok to money in your pocket, or at least following you on another platform, because we never know what's going to happen with TikTok these days, with the scare. But what is your strategy around content on TikTok, and how do you go about doing that?
That's a really good question. So first of all, I want to kick off with the main problem that people, and mainly entrepreneurs, are having when it comes down to create short-form content. So they're really, like, they're so focused on actually creating problem-solving content, which is fine if you create 20% of your content out there specifically for this. That's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it. But TikTok is a platform where you have to share your controversial opinion on different things. And in my opinion, I'm not 20% of my content is actually just call to action. Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm a marketer. I can help you make money online. The rest, 80%, is all about relationships. Which, to be honest, it doesn't really make sense. Why would somebody who's watching relationship video would actually DM me? Well, this is I'm telling you again, I'm targeting 9-to-5ers and people that are, doing the day-to-day things, right? Completely normal people, but they also want to make money somehow. And the way that I'm generating and grabbing this attention is by actually talking to something completely different. To give some context, do you guys know what Andrew Tate is doing? Well, he's doing pretty much the same thing. Have you seen him talking about Hustlers University? Hell no. He's talking about relationships, how to be a man, stuff like that. He's not talking to any of his products, but he's doing it at the back end. People are going to his Instagram accounts, seeing, oh, he got a Bugatti. He's having a really cool lifestyle. So what does he actually do? So when it comes down to creating quality content, it's all about what does really people want to hear? How can I trigger their attention? Well, by sharing my opinion on a controversial topics, red pill topics, more specific, to be very specific, red pill topics. And from then on, it's just like a loop. I'm engaging with people that really, my content triggers their attention. They want to comment and say, hey, you're completely wrong, or you're completely right. I'm an advocate. And that really builds up quite quickly. And just to give you some context, I've uploaded a video today, and on average, it's been viewed more than 500 times per minute. And this is insane. It's absolutely insane. So in couple of hours, my video is getting viewed by probably, I don't know, 15 to 20,000 people. That is crazy. Organically, without spending a single penny in ads, for a brand new account that's been created less than 2 months ago. So this is basically what I am. The biggest advice that I can give you guys: yes, create content specifically for your niche and problems. Try to talk about some different things as well. Share your opinion on different things as well. That's going to help you to build this momentum, especially at the beginning.
And when it comes to the quality of the videos, should we be worried that they're not, professionally done, or they're glossy, they're like a $10 million budget behind it, or should we just just go guerrilla style and feel like it's the Blair Witch?
That's a really good question, and that is the biggest thing that people actually ask me, Alex, your videos are so cool, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm using a broken iPhone 10. I'm using the front camera, which is that one, and I'm using this 5 years old light here, and I'm using a Yeti microphone, which is $150 that I bought 5 years ago. This is all that I'm using, and I have LED lights at the background. That's it. The more natural your videos are on TikTok, the better. Let's just think about it for a second. What does TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook platforms are for? To be social. The more you spend effort in actually trying to be more professional, especially at the beginning, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook will notice this and be like, oh, this guy is spending so much. This is high quality content. He spent time doing it, right? Which means probably the volume is going to be lower. But this guy is creating freaking videos using his iPhone 10. The quality is still really great, which is 1080. And let's push this content because it's more natural. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but I've tried to use right cameras and high quality videos. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. So guys, all that you need is an old iPhone 10, a bad LED light, and a Yeti microphone. That's it. For those of you who don't have budgets to use Yeti, which is $150, go use Adobe Podcast. It's gonna make your audio 50 times better for free.
I like that.
Yep.
No, I'm a big fan of Adobe Podcasts. It's changing the game, helping podcasters. That's a tool you podcasters should be looking at, or entrepreneurs should be using if you can't afford editors and that to handle your sound editing. They do a wonderful job. Alex, I want to know, like, as an entrepreneur, we're talking about AppSumo because we're in connection with them. Do you have a favorite tool on the AppSumo marketplace?
To be very honest, like I'm not against tools, but I'm not really using anything fancy. Like I'm literally not using anything fancy. So that's the short answer. I'm trying to keep everything very, very simple.
No, it's perfect. That's perfect. Now, what is what is the next goal for you with your agency and with what you're doing right now?
Yeah, right now actually we're in the scaling phase. So what I did, my aim with the TikTok game was, let me just give it a shot and see how it really works. But eventually, it turns out that I can build a really great business around it. So we've launched actually a DIY course on how to actually do those videos, like regular people, how they can extract what do they have here, build a platform, build an audience, and eventually sell their services. So I've launched a really great course on how to do this. I've launched it, and in 7 hours, we got $20,000 in sales. I haven't even built a product. I just created a really great simple offer. It took me 5 minutes to create it. I've launched it. I was planning to sell only 20 spots and managed to sell like 50 plus in a very short period of time. So I'm planning to scale it. Right now, we're actually running ads to this offer. So I'm going to scale this. And also on the other side of the agency side, I'm just, keep doing the old things, guys. All things works. Just scale my agency, help more people share their knowledge and experience, and yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, just want to jump in quickly. Alex knows a lot about strategy, and we were talking off air about him breaking down this strategy, and I'm so glad that you were able to share it with us. We were discussing about working together for TikTok specifically. So we have Austin's tool, Syllabi, and Austin is dominating it on TikTok, but so is Alex. And we've been discussing about how can we work with Alex to support podcasters. And I would love for you to talk more about what they would get if they wanted to get some TikTok support via their podcast.
Yep, 100%, man. So what we've been working with as well with Chris in the background is like if somebody wants to take their podcast to the very next level or just share their expertise and build a platform on TikTok, like what we can do is we can do pretty much everything for you guys. So when I'm saying like pretty much everything, it literally means hands off. We can build a really great engaging videos. Of course, I can elaborate what this really means. We can do a research for you about certain topics and what's really hot in the market. We can do everything from building the idea to scripting the idea to edit the video idea to even manage your accounts and just build a massive following on TikTok. Like when it comes down to that specific offer, like we can literally do everything for you, which will help you to not only share your message with more people, which of course will generate more attention, we will also generate much more sales, because I've seen that this platform is not being utilized at all. It's a golden mine, and people think that TikTok is a platform for teenagers and people that are 16 to 18 years old. Trust me, it's not. My audience is 24 to like 45. TikTok's been just a big fact to throw it in there. I'm also working with further education companies, and guys, I want to share with you that people over the age of 45 are also using TikTok for they call it short form educational content for internal uses and purposes, but also for external uses for marketing purposes. These are like onboarding purposes, offboarding purposes, systems, automations, like all kind of different things. So if you have this limiting belief at the back of your minds, oh, my audience is not there. Well, trust me, it's there. It's there. They are there. So whatever you do, we can help you out to build that platform in there and share your message across it.
I love that. What if I'm going to be doing TikToks, and obviously, we heard from Mohammadi, we've heard from SA Grant about how important, using that right keywords, the right hashtags, and all that. How do you go about picking the right hashtag or the right keyword to put in the caption for a TikTok?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. So let me give you the how it solves right now. Especially, and break a huge myth, especially guys, when you're starting, do not include your video specific hashtags in the description. That's going to actually ruin your video. I noticed quite opposite of what people usually think. For example, if you're creating like video about how to increase retention rate in your company, you're going to put hashtag retention, hashtag recruitment, hashtag something similar, and you're trying to rank in that specific hashtag category and you want to be at the very top. But when you're a brand new account, why would TikTok actually push your new content to the very top? It doesn't make sense. So what I've tried to do myself is I've split tested probably 15 different hashtag strategies. What I found that has been working the best is try to go viral in the generic audience, in the generic space. Why? Well, if your account gets the momentum and it pushes your content to the For You page, which we all know is exactly where we want to be at, that's going to tell TikTok, okay, this content is very, like, it's pretty cool. Like, people are engaging with it. And what we want to do is just trigger comments, right? We want to trigger as many comments as possible, get viral first, and then niche down. This is exactly what, like, whoever's watching this needs to do. Do not try to use hashtag relevant videos, hashtag relevant keywords in your specific videos. Go viral first by using 3 hashtags: For You page, For page, and For You page. These are the 3 different hashtags that you want to use. If you guys want to just see like what those are, just go to my TikTok account and you see these are literally the 3 hashtags that I'm using in every single video. Okay. And then once you build that momentum and audience, then use those specific hashtags. And just to give some more context about like how I'm actually picking up my hashtags, I'm actually using the TikTok dashboards. There's like a TikTok for business dashboards, and I'm running a really simple research about like how many views this hashtag got in the past 7 days, how many videos were uploaded, where those hashtags been using, I mean, in like which country and stuff like that. And if it's like hyper saturated, I'm gonna avoid it. But if they're not, I will use it. Also, guys, if you haven't seen the TikTok dashboard, like, it gives you so much insight. It's absolutely mental. You can even see when did that hashtag has been like super popular. For example, I know that the hashtag relationship is very popular in being like abused, literally abused, on Monday and Thursday. And I was like, okay, let me give it a shot and just upload videos specifically about relationship on Monday and Thursday. Boom, 550K views in like 12 hours. Madness. So this is literally the biggest tip that I can give you. Keep it simple at the very beginning. Try to get it to the explore page, which is the For You page. As soon as you build this momentum, which I would say like 5 to 10K followers, then start to niche down and use video specific keywords about related to your videos. Then run a research using the TikTok dashboard that it's available online. Pick up the right keywords which are related to your specific videos. Stick them in if they make sense. Go for it. That's it.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The pretty much the KISS method himself. As you know, he's branding it, which is super important. You always need to brand your process, your method, whatever it may be, so that you guys can come back to you and your brand. What was it like for you the first time you saw your video go viral?
It could be cocky, Phil, but I knew it. I mean, I just knew that it's gonna get viral. It was just about time, because I did 22 videos before I actually cracked the code. for everyone who's out there, guys, please create content. Like I've learned this from Chris as well. Like how many podcasts Chris actually did before he actually started to get the momentum? Quite a lot. So keep the momentum, keep doing what you have to do, and work on optimizing what you're currently doing, right? And then you will see, okay, well, there's a pattern. I should do this, I shouldn't do this, I should include that, I shouldn't include that, and just do it. And when I've uploaded my very first like well optimized video, I was like, I feel that that's gonna be it. Like that's gonna boom. So I just hit upload at 9 p.m., which was the peak of my audience, audience. But what I'm saying audience, that's like 200 people back then. And I was like, I'm just gonna close it and just wake up in the morning, and it was like 250K views or something like that. And I was like, okay, I knew that that's gonna happen. So it was all about time. So let me see what are those insights. And then I saw, okay, that's the age group. These are the cities that the traffic comes from. That's the specific hashtags that I use. That was the method and analogy that I've used to create that video. And from done on everything else is just a legend. And then we're averaging like 1.5 million to 4.5 million views per week by uploading 4 to 5 TikTok videos, which is crazy.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, what is your frequency of uploading? Because you have people like Gary Vee saying that you need to be posting like 4 to 5 videos a day, and you're saying about 4 to 5 a week.
Yeah, well, first of all, depends on your capacity and depends on the quality of work that you want to deliver. I really want everything to be perfect. Like, I'm not gonna post something that I know that it's rubbish. For example, I've drafted over 25 videos that are like, I don't feel like that's gonna boom. I don't like it. There's something wrong with it. So I'd rather post one video per week that is super great. Of course, once you optimize your process and you know what's working, right? Do not overthink it at the very beginning. Just post. I definitely agree with it. But once you crack the code and you know what's working, just guys, if you can post every single day at the very same time, let's say 6 p.m. to like 10 p.m., do it. If you can't, just focus on posting at least 2 to 3 times per week, but be consistent with the days, because your audience will expect, oh wow, let's upload a video on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Oh wow, let's go live on Sunday, right? This is exactly what I'm doing because I don't have the capacity to upload that many videos nowadays, but I'm trying to upload every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm also doing lives on Sunday, which, by the way, lives is something else that you should definitely utilize because it's crazy. Like, I can tap into this as well, Phil, but long story.
Yeah, I would love to. We have some time before we get our next guest here, Alex, and I'm always interested because TikTok is still really new for me. My things get, maybe if I'm lucky, 200 views. But maybe I'm too niched, and maybe I should start talking about other things. Or I'm actually going to try your strategy here and be a bit more consistent. But I would love to hear more about what you were talking about just before.
100%. Before I actually dive into this specific thing, I want to touch base on the video itself, because this is like a really important thing and part of actually becoming like viral on this specific platform. So if I have to put down the whole strategy, like exactly what I'm doing is, in one word, storytelling. How can you, like, I got a question for everyone here that's listening. If you guys can share a story in 60 seconds, how would you do it? And the framework that I'm using is WWWH. Who you are, what do you do, why you're doing it, how people can have your outcome or the outcome that they want. And keep it very simple, right? The way, like, the shortened framework is hook, value, call to action. We all know this, Alaric from Adari, we know it, but it works. Hook them with something that will be like, oh, hold on, what's that? Provide value, justify that value, and tell them to do something about it. Okay? This is exactly what I've been doing in every single video out there. Now, when it comes down to make it, now we've grabbed the attention, the hook is working, right? How can we actually hold their attention? Because this is the thing that will actually make you go viral. If you can hold their attention, make them watch at least 50% of your video, you're going to go viral. There's no doubt about it. And the way that you're doing this is just use basic human psychology and human behavior psychology. How? Okay, well, if you can make the video engaging, I call this the zombie mode. So if you can, or the non-blinking effect, if you can make them literally just stare at your content just like that without blinking, perfect. How do you do this? Zoom in effects, zoom out effects. Make highly engaging subtitles. Hyperlink them. Use different like color coding, color code the specific keywords. Put different things on the screen, but just keep it simple. Like literally keep it simple. Try to get their attention and hold their attention in one specific point on the screen. And I'm pretty sure you guys like abuse TikTok from time to time. You're just literally just staying there and
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never been on TikTok. I've never scrolled on TikTok. I don't know what you're talking about.
and
No
it's
idea.
like, oh wow, I literally spent an hour on TikTok. I didn't know what I was doing. So this is exactly what we're trying to do with them. Grab their attention, hold their attention. This is how I'm doing. And for those of you, go check out my account. You see, I'm trying to engage. I'm not wasting even half of a second. I'm trying to keep their eye engaged as much as possible. So that's it about the video. I'm not going to get into crazy like details, but guys, if you implement that, like, thank me later, and thank Phil and Chris later. It's going to work out. There's no way it's not going to work out.
Well, I'm going to start trying it, and then we'll see. And I'm pretty sure it will work. Alex, I'm going to jump off stage. Chris is going to jump off as well, and we're going to let everybody know where they can connect with you, how they can follow you, or how they can even work with you. So the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect, guys. Thanks a lot yet again for having me here, guys. If you want, guys, to learn more about who am I and what I can do for you, or just learn more how you can create highly engaging content, you can find me on my Instagram page, which is I'm Alex Valentine, and you can find me on my TikTok account, which is Alexander Valentine with double L. Follow me. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Follow me there. Send me a DM. I would love to expand more and share some really great, valuable information with you guys. So yeah, that's me. And I appreciate you, Phil and Chris. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
The appreciation is on. Make sure when you do contact him, you make sure you mention the Podcast Launch Agency or myself or Chris, so that he knows you got all this valuable information from us. But Alex, I want to thank you so much for sharing that amazing strategy, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the audience here is going to be replicating that quite quickly to get the views that you have. So I want to thank you again, sir, and I wish you the very best.
Perfect, guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Good night, Alex.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys.
Yes, go get some sleep.
I need it.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, our next guest is someone I'm very happy to talk to, because they are going to teach us how to be a better host, a better guest, how to find the podcast, a whole bunch of stuff. It is Brandy Whalen from Kitcaster. Hello,
Hi.
Brandy.
Hey, Phil
Hey.
and Chris and everyone else. How are y'all doing?
I'm on going to hit hour 3 in a minute. Chris is on hour 18, I think.
My
now.
goodness.
He refuses to go to bed. He doesn't trust me.
No.
I don't know what it is.
No, I was joining for some guests that coming on that just wanted to see me there. So, and I'm gonna stay now until I get tired.
You're already here. Just stay, right?
Yeah,
Keep going.
Chris, what time is it for you?
it's
And how long have you been podcasting for?
it's coming up to midnight, and the event finishes at 5 a.m. my time. I might get a little bit of rest, but we got a lot of US listeners and Canadian listeners, and so I'm going to stay until I get tired.
Not a problem, Chris. I always love you here. But this is not about Chris. This is about Brandy and Kitcaster and the amazing stuff that you guys are doing over there. So, Brandy, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Brandy Whalen. I am the co-founder of Kitcaster. We are a podcast booking agency. Also the co-founder of Wildcast, which is an advertising platform for podcasts, more in the kind of B2B space versus like big society and culture pods. So that's what I've got going on in my world.
All right, I love it. So, how did you start Kitcaster? How did Kitcaster come about? Because I love booking agencies because it makes my life as a host so much easier, because I don't have to go out searching for guests.
Yeah. So my co-founder Ryan Estes and I had a PR firm he had a marketing agency, but also he was a podcaster, like before podcasting was even really hot and cool.
An OG in the game. I love it.
know. So, with my traditional PR agency, I was starting to incorporate podcasting into overall campaign strategies. And when my clients would go on podcasts, their faces would just light up afterwards. They were like, that was fun. When I posted the conversation on LinkedIn, I got so much engagement. It just felt like it was the place that I got to really explain what we did, how we did it, why we do it, in a really authentic way to connect with listeners. So just hearing that enough, I was like, there's something here. And my co-founder and I, we would grab coffee. We always have crazy ideas. So we were just like bouncing some different things back and forth. And we're like, let's do this. So we literally sent this idea out to a handful of people. We were like, here's what we want to do. Would you pay for this type of service? And people said yes. And that was our first customers. And we've just grown from there. Mostly in the, most of our clients are in the B2B tech space. They're founders, they're executive team members. So that's kind of our core competency.
I love that because it's so important to have that high level executives come into the podcasting and share their knowledge, and of course the tech founders share their products that are coming up, because we're getting inundated with a whole bunch of stuff and hearing about the new guys coming up, and guys by the general term, the new companies coming up, and that can help us as everyday people or business owners as well is very important. So I have a list of questions here.
Okay.
That we may or may not have been prepared beforehand. I'm not going to confirm nor deny that. But I know that's one of the best things to be a host. But I would like to know, how do you get the juicy content out of people?
Yeah. So, when we are working with clients, we do what we call a storycraft session with them first, because, not everyone has experience with podcasting. A lot of our clients have experience with traditional media training to get on air and rattle off talking points, but that's not what we want out of a podcast interview or conversation. So we really kind of break it down. I mean, honestly, it depends on how the conversation is going. Sometimes it's natural and our clients and people tend to just open up, because really that's what we want, right? We want to, as you were saying, you want to hear from executives. We want to know their vulnerabilities. We want to hear about the time that they fell on their face and had to pull themselves back up again, because those are all things that we can relate to. And as human beings, we relate to those stories. So depending on where a client's coming in at, I mean, sometimes I'll just ask them, like, what did their dinner table look like on Sunday night? Just to like kind of get their mindset in a totally different place, where they're not thinking about pitching their business. They're not thinking about pitching their product. I just kind of take that away from them completely and make them a little bit more vulnerable and share things that they're not typically used to sharing. Because a podcast conversation bounces between personal and professional typically. So you've got to be able to navigate that successfully. And that is, you just have to really kind of work people through that if it doesn't come naturally.
Now, I'm wondering, because you're sharing this, and I kind of figure you have your own podcast.
Yes.
Do your clients come on and use your podcast as a first run, like a dry run for them to get used to it, or do you just send them out into the wild and pray that they come back?
We just send them out to the wild. My podcast is only for podcast hosts. So if they are a podcast host, I would invite them to be a guest on the show, but typically they are not. So we give them a little prep. We do sessions with them to get them ready, to get their story ready, to kind of take it. We do kind of a mock podcast interview to get them comfortable, but we're sending them into the wild. It's good. You've got to just jump in and do it. Now, it takes a few times to get comfortable. There's just no way of getting around it.
Yeah, of course. It's a completely different ball game because when you're on TV, like or on radio, there's different level of professionalism if you want it. There's a whole industry, whereas a podcast is generally just one person looking at a camera while the other person looks in as well.
Yeah, I heard something really interesting the other day, Phil, when I had a guest on. He's a podcast host, and he was talking about how, obviously he wants people to talk about what they do professionally, but he kind of just asked them what's on their mind. Like what's going on in your mind right now? And oftentimes that will direct the conversation. And it could be something that's completely off topic, but it's top of mind to this guest and they want to talk about it. So he goes there. That was really interesting.
Those are kind of, I guess, I would find the more organic ones because it's more of the conversation than a rigorous interview that some podcasters like to have on and just, this is what we do.
Yeah.
What is it about podcasting that you love?
I love the parasocial relationship that comes from podcasting. And I've said this on podcasts, but I love eavesdropping on conversations. I'm that person,
You're just sitting there in a McDonald's, just leaning over. Oh, these people are fighting, and you have a group text, don't you, where you're telling people about what's going on at the McDonald's? I feel you do.
I like to just sit back. I'm in a coffee shop. I'm just tuning in, and like podcasting allows me to do that without, being overly creepy.
Yeah, you don't. No one's realizing you're leaning over, listening to their conversation. You're listening. They've actually are aware of it, and they're consenting to this sharing of information.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, I've listened to so many podcast episodes and of folks who are running brands that I already respected, and then once I hear their story and just hear more from them, I'm just, I feel like I know them. Even though I don't, I feel more invested in their brand and me as a consumer. So I think that that's the coolest part about podcasting. And it's such a collaborative environment. I mean, our clients have had so many cool opportunities present themselves from being guests on podcasts, whether it's with a host, a listener. It just opens the door for so much additional conversation and opportunity.
No, it's very true. That's why I love it. I love talking with people, learning about people, and I listen to it to further my knowledge of the world and that. I want to maybe get into some pet peeves because you obviously have great guesting tips for an interview tips since you host your own and you help others get onto podcasting. But I want to know, what are some pet peeves that you have that you see maybe podcast hosts doing, and then one or two, maybe one. It's okay. You don't have to send too many pet peeves out there. The hosts do and that guests do.
Yeah. So I think it's okay for hosts to follow a format and do their research and have some questions. But when hosts are not flexible and listening to the conversation and want to just follow this list of predetermined questions that they have already set to ask the guest, and the conversation could be going a really cool direction, but they refuse to go there and keep wanting to pull back into this line of questioning that they have. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, because as a listener, you're following a conversation, and if it's a really engaging point that's happening between a host and a guest, and the host just completely abandons the track and goes a totally different direction, it really throws people. And I just think as a host, you've got to be able to move with the guest and where they're at. You could have an idea of where you want the conversation to go, but you need to be flexible.
I like that. It's a great piece of advice, not only for podcast hosting, but also for entrepreneurs. You may be wanting to go up to here and you think this is the path, but you have to be flexible to know that the river is winding and you'll always get there. I think that is a great piece of advice for a host, but also a very valid pet peeve, because I know there's been why aren't you doing a follow-up question? I want to know. And that means I have to go out and get that guest on my podcast and then
Yeah.
just answer one question.
I know, yeah. And I would say on the other side, like my pet peeve on the guesting side is a guest that's not allowing the host to host and to lead the conversation. You know, if a guest is kind of taking control, hijacking the convo, and maybe their answer is 35 minutes long and not allowing any time for the host to come back and engage with that, that would be one of my guesting pet peeves.
So as a podcast listener, hearing that the guest asks one question and the rest of the episode is the guest just answering,
Going off on a
long-windedly.
tangent, yeah. Like you need to
Ooh,
know when to
tangents.
pause, when to allow the host to come back into the conversation, and hopefully keep digging. But yeah, that would be my guesting pet peeve.
I like that. Now, let's flip it and let's go and try and correct those pet peeves. You gave a bit for a podcast guest, allow the breaks naturally, don't talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, let the host, as you say. Is there maybe some more tips you can give to someone who's going to be a guest on a podcast so that they can make sure that episode is one of the best episodes that they're on for their brand or for their business?
Yeah, some of the tips that I give to folks who are going to be guesting on podcast is, making sure that there's enough weaved throughout your conversation that's connecting with an audience. So if you are someone, let's say you're a CEO of a tech company and you're solving a particular problem, like making sure that you're bringing the listeners along, sharing what that maybe, painting a picture, like you've seen this before, you're dealing with this issue, you don't know how to solve it, like making sure that you're kind of touching some pain points that are common enough that listeners are going to be like, oh yeah, I have this problem, because we all like, that's kind of part of what we're trying to get out of these conversations is this connectivity with the audience. Also, I always tell people to come up with some stats. People love statistics. So if you can come out of the gate and like say, I'm here to tell you that 75% of businesses fail. Just like a mic drop moment, and then kind of launch in, just like an attention grabber, and then come into the goods. Those are some of the tips that I provide to our clients and people who are guesting. And it's okay to pause. It's all right. I think that people feel like they need to always be filling the void. There's like this awkward silence. And it's okay to just, if you're asked a question and you just need to collect your thoughts, it's okay to do that. You don't need to ramble and fill that space for the sake of rambling and filling space.
I love that. I was actually, one of my follow-up questions later on was going to be like, how do you deal with that awkward silence not only as a host, but also as a guest? Like, let's take it from the host perspective, because I love awkward silence as a host.
Yeah.
Because you get the guest nervous and they think they need to fill the void. Like you said, they feel they need to fill the void with babbling. But I want to know, how do you deal with those awkward silences?
I call them out. Like, I think it's a really good time to insert a little bit of humor, like if, let's just say that a guest says something that kind of leaves me a little bit like speechless. I'll be like, wow, I'm literally speechless. Right now I need a moment. And I think it's okay for the guest to do that too, right? Like it's a great question. I'm going to need I just need a moment to think about that. Just calling it out and almost creating this comedic moment where you can let the listeners know that you're a human being and you also are just going to get caught off guard occasionally, or, need a little bit more time to kind of think through what your response might be or what your next question might be.
No, I like that, because it also allows you to have this connection with the audience, because they're like, oh, they're human. They actually do stop talking for a moment and they're not full of the answers for life. When did you start your podcast hosted?
I started hosted, gosh, it's been about a year and a half. So it's fairly new. And I don't, I do a couple episodes a month. It's kind of a perfect cadence for me.
That's good. What drew you to start interviewing podcast hosts, since you're not coming from generally from the world of podcasts? What made you decide, hey, I want to interview hosts of podcasts?
Well, I wanted to just flip the table, like they don't get to be asked a lot of questions unless they are themselves going on a podcast tour. So I just wanted to give them opportunity. I wanted to kind of provide a space where they could be asked questions for a change, just have to. And I'll tell you this, Phil, it was in the beginning, I didn't realize what I was talking about before about guests kind of leading the conversation. Like, it's hard to break the host of that habit. Like, I was having a really hard time wrangling them, like them hijacking the interview because they're so used to leading the interview. So like the first couple of episodes that I launched, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? This was a terrible idea. They're so used to hosting and leading the interview. Like I can't shake them and kind of reverse this model. But I eventually figured it out and was able to kind of let them just be led by me instead of them taking the lead.
It is, I have to say, as a host who's jumped on different podcasts as guests, it is somewhat hard. I have a more reserved style of talking. I like to ask the question and that's it, and let the guest go. So when I have a hard time talking on podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm the reverse because I don't want to talk because I'm so used to being the host and asking the questions and getting the responses.
Yeah, no, I've had that too, right? Where it's just like having to pull all the good stuff out of the guests. Yeah, I've certainly have had that scenario as well.
And how do you go about doing that? How do you get that juicy stuff from those guests that are maybe 1 or 2 word answers from time to time?
Yeah, you just keep digging. I mean, I think part of in the beginning, and whether it's allowing a couple minutes before you push record, but most of the time people just, there's a barrier you need to break down. And I'm sure you've experienced this, Phil, when you bring guests on, it's towards the end of the conversation, things are really flowing. And that's, I feel like that's when you press record almost, right? Where it's like, okay, now it's like going on a date for the first time and you're just warming up and you have that like awkward exchange of conversation. And then you get to like the really good stuff. It's the same thing in podcasting. So first thing is just getting the guest comfortable with you and getting over that kind of like awkward, getting to know you phase and jumping into the real stuff. And it's really just a matter of like continuing to push. If you're getting like 1 or 2 word answer, just keep pushing, especially if you feel like you're eventually going to get something really good from this line of questioning.
Now, as someone who's been podcasting for about a year, I have a few more years on you, and I feel like an old man talking right now. But have you had any episodes that you were kind of hesitant to share with your audience?
Yes. I did share it, but I was super hesitant to share it.
Yeah. And how did you make that decision to share it? Because obviously no one knows that you've recorded this other than the guest. And obviously being the podcast host, you have the choice of airing whatever episode you want. But how did you go around? Like, what was your decision-making process around that?
Yeah, so I had to listen to it a couple of times, and I knew when I was in it that it just wasn't going the way that I had anticipated. And that's like not the end of the world. But when we got done, I was like, that didn't feel great. But ultimately it felt great to them. And this was an instance where they kind of took over the combo a bit. But it was also two guests and me. So it was a co-host situation. So I think that created another interesting dynamic. So it was like they were like doing their own little act. So ultimately I was like, you know what? I respect them. I actually respect their podcast a lot. And to me, it just wasn't, I was having some feelings about it, but it wasn't worth not publishing the episode because they felt good about it.
There you go. That's a good decision making right there. So let's talk about what Kitcaster does for everybody. Like, so if I'm an expert, I'm a person, I'm coming up to Kitcaster, I want to be known more as the podcast, we'll get on more podcasts. How would one go about joining Kitcaster, and tell me about Kitcaster in that regard?
Yeah, so we start off with a 6-month podcasting campaign for our clients, and in that 6 months, we want to schedule 18 interviews. And so we're looking at, where's your audience? Is it CMOs? Is it manufacturing? Like, where are these little niches of people that you're trying to connect with? And what are the different messages that we can lead with in each one of these audiences that are important to you and your business? So it's really kind of creating that campaign structure up front of like who our target audiences are, what our talking points are our unique talking points are going to be for each one of them. And then it's a matter of finding which podcasts are going to be the best fit, developing unique pitches to each of the podcasts based on the types of guests that they have, the types of content that they produce. So it's really, it's a pretty big lift. We kind of have to know a lot about, we've worked with thousands of different podcasts in like every industry imaginable. There are at least 10 or 15 podcasts in every single industry, even like the smallest, most obscure industry, like refrigeration, for example.
I've heard of some weird niches from one of my friends, so I am not surprised if there's one on that niche.
Yeah, but also like if you are in refrigeration, you're listening to refrigeration podcasts, right? I mean, that is where, and if you're selling to that particular industry, that's where they're tuning in. They're tuning in for business tips and advice. So, really that's how we move through the campaign. So we're doing all of the legwork. We're reaching out to hosts, producers. We're getting them all the information that they need. And then our client really just has to show up for the interview and be ready to have a great conversation.
So they pretty much, it's hands off. They go here, sign me up 6 months, and then you're like 18 podcasts later, they're signing up for another 6 months to a year to get on to more podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had clients that have been with us since we started for like 4 years ago. It's a lot of podcasts.
That is a lot of podcasts in 4 years. I'm a little jealous that they hit that many podcasts. I don't even think I have that many podcast episodes released out of totality. I do want to touch on Wildcast because as a podcaster, I love tools that help podcasts.
Yes.
And since you're helping, I don't want to steal it. What is Wildcast, and what can podcasters do with it?
Yeah, so we just launched Wildcast. It's kind of been in the works for quite some time, but because of our business, because of Kitcaster and the clients that we work with and the podcasts that we work with, realizing that there's kind of a missed opportunity for a lot of podcasts, especially in the B2B space, for them to monetize their show. But it's such a powerful play for many brands whose target audience is B2B business professionals. So we've created Wildcast, which is a host-read ad platform. So when companies are wanting to engage with us, like we have a handful of cybersecurity companies that are our clients on Wildcast. So they're interested in host-read ads, cybersecurity host-read ads. So we're then taking, whatever their budget is for campaign spend, and then figuring out what podcasts are going to be the best alignment for their company and their message.
I love it. And since we're talking to podcasters
Yeah.
here, how can a podcast, if they're hearing this for the first time and want to be part of Wildcast, see if they're able to be a part of it? How would someone go about doing that?
Absolutely. And you are 100% able to be a part of it. So, for us, you don't have to have a huge audience. So for a lot of folks who are monetizing their podcasts, they have gigantic listenerships. So we want to make sure that we're providing an opportunity for podcast hosts who, are starting out or have, a consistent but not large listenership to be able to monetize. So you just need to go to gowildcast.com and sign up. It's very easy. And then we match it just based on what your podcast is about and the clients that we have and the types of podcasts that they're looking to advertise on.
And for the audience, we're now putting that link in all the places we're going to be posting, so that you can go click on that in the chat, because this is a great opportunity to monetize your podcast if you don't have a product, if you don't have a service to have on it as well. So go wildcast.com, sign up today, and hey, you could start earning some dollars. This is the second tool that can help you monetize your podcast, specifically with host-read ads. Do you have anything else you want to share with the audience about podcasting, guesting, hosting, or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say, there's so many different outcomes, right, from podcasting. And when you're starting out and getting into, especially on the host side, I think that a common thread that I hear amongst most podcast hosts that I speak with and who have massive success from podcasting is really just a general curiosity and a desire to want to connect with people and just get really curious with folks who are coming on to their show. And I think that makes for some of the best content, is just being genuinely curious and open to connection.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Brandy, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to tell the audience where they can find you, how they can connect with you, how they can apply to be on your show, whatever you choose to. The time is yours as a thank you for coming on to the 12-hour stream that you only had to be here for 30 minutes, and I'm already on my 4th hour. Oh my God. The floor is yours.
Phil, thank you. All right, everyone. So if you want to connect with me, you can reach out to me via email. My email address is Brandy, BRANDY, @kitcaster.com, and I can help navigate any question that you may have. Also, just really happy to connect with anyone if you have any questions about podcasting, finding guests, monetizing your podcast. I would love to connect and just grab 15 minutes and we can chat. Thanks, everyone.
There we go. Make sure you do go ahead and book that free 15 minutes, because it's going to be worth your time. You'll have an amazing podcaster that has talked to hundreds of podcasters and has helped hundreds of others get on to podcasts. So I'm pretty sure she has a little bit of information. Brandy, I can't thank you enough for joining us for this, and I look forward to talking with you in the future.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, Phil and Chris.
So much.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone, for tuning in.
All right, guys, we're coming up on 3.5 hours that I've been talking, but it's fine. You only have a few more minutes of listening to me. I'm going to introduce our next guest. He is from AppSumo. He is the dude who takes care of the AppSumo originals. I have 100 questions for him. So without further ado, let's bring in David, the AppSumo original guru, I'm calling him.
Wow.
David, thank you.
What an honor.
Thank you for showing up.
What an honor to hear that introduction, Phil. You've been doing this for 3.5 hours, man. This is unbelievable. Thank you to everyone tuning in at this time. It's great to be here, and hopefully we can add some energy in and talk about originals.
Oh, yes. I'm very, very happy to talk about originals, because I'm a big fan of the AppSumo originals. Just to let you know, Chris has been going since noon noon this time. So he's on hour, like, Chris, what are you, you're at 7 now, 7.5 hours.
Yeah, I think it's maybe 8. I'm not sure.
Jesus, how he does this,
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a beast. David, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got with AppSumo and everything like that.
Yeah, totally. So it's great to be here. And I hear that my colleague Nick was here earlier today. My goal with this talk is to be better than Nick. So if everyone can spam in the comments that I'm better than Nick, regardless of what I say, that'd be much appreciated. But truly, it's great to be here, and it's great to have AppSumo kind of repping on this podcast event. So really, really cool. Nice. Host better than Nick. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
That's me.
So my role at AppSumo is to lead the AppSumo Originals, which is a collection of products designed for solopreneurs, including podcasters. And they include TidyCal, they include SendFox, they include King Sumo, they include old throwback classics like sumo.com, and a few other products in between. So very, very excited to talk about those products as well. There's just a lot I'm excited to talk about.
Oh,
I love these products, so can't wait to dive in.
I love that I have a connect with someone from AppSumo, because like my good buddy Mike also gets yelled at from his wife for spending too much money on AppSumo. So it's good that he can send them the hate towards you, because you are the creator of these things, or you're the one who takes care of them. But how did you get connected with AppSumo? Like, how did that happen?
It's a really interesting story. I've known Noah for a long time. Going back probably about 10 years now, I've known Noah in some capacity, and I've always admired what he creates and how he builds products. And what I think is really interesting about our Originals products, and I think this is really important for all podcasters or entrepreneurs or solopreneurs to think about, is all of our products are created from our own needs. So the way the relationship between Noah and I started, and the way we built Originals to be what it is now, is by trying to solve things that were broken, or the products weren't good enough that existed online already, or some variation thereof. And I think about that in podcasting too, with so many podcasts out there, just like there are so many competitors to Originals products. How do we stand out? How do we build products that people care about? How do you build podcasts that people care about? How do we stand out in this sea of just mediocrity and competition?
I love that. So when you got in connected with Noah, and was it specifically to do the AppSumos, take care of the AppSumo Originals, or did you have another title or role before you were like, no, I like doing this, I want to play with these?
Yeah, I originally started helping him with his OK Dork website. And if those of you listening haven't listened or heard Noah's podcast or checked out his website, so many good nuggets of information all across. It's really, really incredible. So I started helping Noah with some marketing on his personal website. And then we started looking at some products that we potentially wanted to create. And this was back in 2018, our first product was launched, and that was King Sumo. So King Sumo had an existing WordPress plugin. And then we decided to create a web app version to supplement the WordPress plugin and serve a different need. So that's how we decided to go from there. And then SendFox and all the other tools followed after that. And our most recent one is AppSumo Connect, which has just recently launched.
I'm very happy about that, because that deals with automation, and I love automation for podcasters. So really happy about that. So what came up with the idea to make AppSumo Connect? Like, what was that for it? Like, why?
Yeah. So there are really a few different ways I think about product development. And I come from a product strategy and a marketing background. So I've dabbled in both fields. And with AppSumo Connect, we saw the writing on the wall that a lot of people had a lot of different Originals products, and they had a lot of different AppSumo products in general, and a lot of other products across the board in other popular realms like Google. So we decided to create something that would help integrate all these products together. And we go through a process of development for our products where we look at something like a RICE framework, which some of the listeners might have heard from, where you're kind of evaluating product decisions or product ideas. So we decided to look at what would the virality of a product be like this? What would the interest from our team internally be in a product like this, developing a product like this? What do we think the revenue would be for a product like this? What do we think the impact would be across the board? And Connect was a product we had been thinking about for so long, something to be a Zapier alternative within the AppSumo ecosystem. And very excited to more publicly announce it after we've been working on it for the past 6-7 months. It's now kind of bringing itself to the public limelight.
Ooh, I like that. A little bit of an exclusive on the 12-hour AppSumo.
It is.
Makes sense that we have a little bit of some exclusivities. Chris is jumping in here with the fist pumps. When you were
As soon as
building,
sorry.
Go
Sorry,
ahead, Chris.
Phil.
Go ahead, Chris.
As soon as
Chris is
I
just so
heard-
excited
yeah.
about it. He just
Yeah,
can't
he is.
resist.
So, as soon as we had a conversation in the week and you said you could commit to coming on, you said that you launched this new product called AppSumo Connect, and I was like, oh, tell me about it. And you said, we're officially launching on Monday, May 15th, and I thought,
We are.
oh my goodness, that's the event. So yeah, I'm excited to hear more about it. And sorry, Phil, for butting in.
It's fine, Chris. I've grown accustomed. I'm coming down from my high of starting this event 3.5 hours ago, and not 7.5 hours like you did. Still don't know how you have the energy, boy. But so with the AppSumo originals, we all know it. You like you said, it came from a need. How difficult was it coming up with something like SendFox, which is pretty much a mail manager like MailChimp that costs X amount of money a year?
Yeah.
How did you go about taking care of those costs or those monthly costs?
There's an interesting parallel for, I think, podcasters here, and that is people are very scared of entering competitive spaces. I love entering into competitive spaces, and here's why. There's validation in competitive spaces that there's a need there. So when we look at all the alternatives out there for our products, just as podcasters do when they create their podcasts, we're thinking about how can we do things differently. And for me, product development is really thinking about the USP, our unique selling proposition. And USPs don't need to be that crazy, right? We either need to be first to market, which a lot of people think about. We either need to be better, or we either need to be more affordable. And better is kind of interesting because better can mean better in a very specific category of the product. So with SendFox, we said, well, you know what? We'll be better than any other product at price. And we'll be better than any other product at simplicity. And those are important differentiators because we do get messages from SumoLings or customers in general every once in a while with like, hey, this doesn't do everything that MailChimp does or ConvertKit does. And my comment to them is great. Go use MailChimp, go use ConvertKit. We're not trying to play in the same exact realm as those products are. There are some similarities, but who we're trying to serve are the people that don't want to pay for the excessive bells and whistles of MailChimp or ConvertKit. And TidyCal was very similar. I really wanted TidyCal myself because I thought it was absolutely outrageous to pay Calendly $15 a month at least for them to manage my calendar. Like there's no infrastructure cost. There's like no complexity to it. It just seems insane. So we decided to compete with TidyCal in the same type of process. How do we build a more affordable, simpler solution for people who don't need all the bells and whistles and don't want to pay $15 a month? And just like with SendFox, there are some people with Calendly who need agency features or need intense features or need excessive features. And they can use Calendly, and that's great. We're happy with whatever people use.
No, we had Grant on, S.A. Grant, the boss on Cage, and he mentioned that if he had to pay a subscription for all the tools he used that he got from AppSumo, he would be paying tens of thousands a month. Just from the tools that he has. So like obviously you're beating the market in price. And with that. So now that you've launched AppSumo Connect, which I can't wait to go download and start using and figuring out how to make my life even easier. What is the next thing that you can talk about that you're working on or allude to that you're working on?
Yeah. So there are really three things we're thinking about with originals right now heavily. One is there's a lot of excitement and interest around TidyCal. We're seeing TidyCal as one of the most popular tools on AppSumo, period. Not only in originals product, but just across all product categories in AppSumo. So we're constantly thinking about TidyCal and how can we make TidyCal better? And making TidyCal better for us is how do we continue to help people make money with our products? I think that's a really interesting question to ask. So we're going to keep exploring that. We do also have product feature websites where people can submit feature requests, and we always go through and we think about what people want. So for example, we're ideating a couple things with specific date overriding ability or calendar availability for certain scheduling that we haven't historically have in TidyCal. So that's a big one. And then Connect, we're just looking to see what people want.
I think much like I would encourage people creating a podcast, we go in with an idea for our originals products. And that idea is usually different than what the product becomes. So a lot of questions I deal with oftentimes from our customers are like, hey, what's on the roadmap? And I'm like, hey, you tell me.
Oh.
What do you want on the roadmap? And it isn't to say we do everything, because we do get hundreds of thousands of comments every week, every month, and we have to aggregate and we have to make decisions. But I think the parallel here for content creators like podcasters is, if you go in with an idea and that idea is etched in stone and it remains static, we're really not adapting to our user base. And I think the early stage of every content creator or business should be adaptation. And there becomes a point where I think user feedback is potentially less helpful. I look at a company like Apple, for example, and they have such a heavy market share, and they really kind of have like an incredible product vision that I think they probably listen a little less. But for many people that are starting out, like ourselves at Originals that still run a lean ship, or podcasts are starting out, my encouragement is to really listen and really adapt accordingly to our user bases.
No, I think that's great. I want to like just ask you 100 questions about like what's coming down the road, but I know I don't want to get you into any trouble with the King Sumo himself, the King Dork, Noah, and releasing stuff that shouldn't be released yet. But so I'm happy about Podcast Connect, you guys, AppSumo Connect, Podcast Connect, AppSumo Connect, and the tool. Was it a difficult tool to create, because it's what does it do? What is AppSumo Connect in more detailed terms?
Yeah. So I'll answer what it is first, and then I'll talk about how difficult it was.
Okay.
Because there's something to be said for the difficulty of this product. So AppSumo Connect, the vision we have for AppSumo Connect is to help people connect more of their products together. And it is somewhat of a Zapier alternative. I don't want to say a complete Zapier alternative, because it's not meant to be. But from May 15th to June 15th, if you buy any product on AppSumo, you get Connect for free for life, which is amazing. So this is our way of having people help us test this product out and to use a product that could potentially help with their workflows. So we have, I think, about 15 different integrations in there right now. So it is not to the point we'd like it to be, but we're building it rapidly. And to answer the second question about development, there are a handful of products behind the scenes at Originals that we have worked on in various levels that will never see the light of day. Never see the light of day. And I think that's really interesting, because Connect was actually a product that I thought would never come out. We've been ideating this product for probably around 4 or 5 years at this point. And I didn't know if we'd ever release it. We needed to wait for the market to be right, the cost infrastructure in the back end to be right, our team to be right. There's also the team dynamic of making sure we have the expertise we needed. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult to create. It was much harder to create because there are so many nuances to creating a product like this. So we're really excited to see what happens. We're also somewhat nervous. And who knows? But what I'm really excited about right now is, with all these people going into Connect, what do they want? So what do they want the roadmap to be? What features are missing? What do they like? What do they dislike? The Sumolings and users are so great at finding all the weird bugs that we miss. So really excited to see what they uncover.
I was just about to ask, like, how do you feel like when someone finds a bug or something's not working the way it's supposed to be working with some of the originals? What how do you feel? Like, what is it like? Do you feel like down? Do you feel like, oh great, I got more work to do? Like, how do you process that?
Mostly I love it. I really love it. So I do think, and I think this is true of every group of consumers, there are always, and I'm sure this is true for people who have podcast listeners, there are always kind of the negative Nancy's who, no matter what, just want to complain. And the important thing is we understand who is giving valid criticism and valid feedback, constructive feedback, and who would never be happy. So I think we've gotten better at that as the years have gone by. What are things that we can actually implement? And then what are the situations where we tell a certain user, hey, this product just isn't right for you. I understand your concerns, but the negativity isn't helping us. It isn't helping you. I think it's best if we just part ways. And we've done that with our users in the past as well. We want to make sure we're serving the best people And for the Sumo Links, of which there are so many on this call who have been advocates of our originals products over the years, thank you, because we build them for you. And there are way more great people than there are challenging customers, that's for sure.
No, I like that, and I do like how you're saying, hey, we may not be a great fit, and not being scared to lose that person's business because
absolutely
the two won't be happy, and it could end up being worse down the line for that.
Yeah.
What? So you built King Sumo. King Sumo was the kind of the first one you built out of an app, and what was that like building that from a widget on a WordPress site?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. It's still one of my favorite products we've ever built. I think each originals product we build is like a child, and they each have their own personality. And they each have their own pros and cons, and they each behave well at times and then misbehave at other times. It was interesting because I do think about product development like this. When I think about what we build, it's often who are our users and what do they want? And where are they? I think those are the three questions. If I could really summarize marketing for people, it is that. It's who are my customers and where are they? And then what do they want is kind of like a product development question. But when I think about how we built the King Sumo web app, it was an expansion of what already existed. So we had seen success with the WordPress plugin with King Sumo, but WordPress is only a specific section of the web. So there were so many people that we thought we could expose King Sumo to that didn't have WordPress. So then we built this product to be complementary to the existing WordPress version that could be embedded anywhere and used without WordPress as a backend instance. And it worked pretty well. So we always think about kind of like an onion. It's like, what are the layers of an onion? Well, we have King Sumo, and then we have SendFox, which for people who want to email their King Sumo entrance, they can do that. And then if someone is growing a business, let's say they want to start doing bookings with people. So then we have TidyCal so they can do bookings. And then they have a social media presence where they can link their different TidyCal pages or SendFox landing forms. So then we created Sleek Bio. So everything is very complementary for each other. And I think thinking of the 10,000 foot view, we're always thinking about how does this all interrelate? How does a content strategy, how does a product strategy, how does everything interrelate?
And that obviously goes back to AppSumo Connect. It's another layer that connects. It's pretty much the skin on the onion,
Exactly.
because it connects everything together and allows it all to be seamlessly working together.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you are aware of the AppSumo giveaway that's going on right now for this live stream, correct?
So I actually don't know about this because I am so isolated in our originals bubble. You'll have to tell me, what are we giving away? Can I enter? I don't know if I'm eligible.
I'm going to bring in my co-host. He's more well-versed in this, and allow him to tell us a little bit more about this AppSumo giveaway, because he was the first one to talk
Tell the
about.
folks, Chris, and tell me as
Yeah,
well.
of course. So for everybody who registered in the giveaway, and I think now let's have a look at some of the numbers because I'm pretty impressed with it. And yeah, so on SendFox, we use SendFox, obviously. We had 143 people register, which was amazing.
Great.
And then we had 106 people enter in the giveaway, which is a pretty good stat. So not everybody who signed up to register signed up to the giveaway, but the giveaway is has got 4 hours left. So if you have registered, make sure to enter the giveaway. And forgive me if I'm stumbling on my words because it's coming up to 1 a.m. in the morning here.
I want you to go to sleep.
Giveaway is we love launching podcasts, but we also know it's important to set up the podcast brand. So if you enter, you can win a custom-built professional website for your personal brand or podcast, plus exclusive bonuses from our VIP speakers. So we're also including 7 top podcast spots on top 7 great podcasts that we know that have got the largest of audiences. We launched podcasts through the Podcast Accelerator program, and we're giving you $700 discount, which is a very exclusive offer. Obviously, the website, 3 warm intros to 3 industry-leading brands. So that could be an introduction to AppSumo Select if you've got a SaaS tool, or to anybody else within our network that has been a guest on the event today. Nick has kindly offered to give the winner $100 of AppSumo credit. So that's AppSumo's
Wow.
the entire marketplace store, which is incredible.
Pretty much you can get SendFox and TidyCal, and then you get AppSumo Connect in there, and you got two of the best things for you as a podcaster.
That's
Then-
right. Throw in Sleep Bio too, I think you can get. So
Yeah.
you get 3.
And then Blaine, who joined, he's the founder of Cast Magic, which is popping off on AppSumo at the moment. He's going to give lifetime access to their deal. And Austin is also giving a 30-day trial of his tool. Usually he gives a 7-day, so you're getting 3 times plus a few more days. And then we've also had Osmond, who's going to share some hypnosis audio files to prevent you from quitting or experiencing pod fade and help you walk through the limiting beliefs, which is a value in itself. And the list continues. It's just lots of value. Do you have anything
Amazing.
you would like to add?
I wish. I think what's interesting is we often, and it's funny because we do get questions a lot from nonprofits and other companies like, hey, do you offer discounts on TidyCal or SendFox or whatever? And our answer is almost always no. And there are 2 reasons for that. One is we want to give Sumo Lings the best deal possible. So we don't want to go under the table and give Sumo Lings a worse deal than other people are getting. And the second thing is we really price our products at an incredibly thin margin intentionally. So we don't really have as much room to discount as other brands might. And that is intentional. Again, going back to what I mentioned with Phil, we're really focused on affordability. So TidyCal being priced $29 for a lifetime is insane.
Steal.
Compared to MailChimp, to your point, Phil, we've had people using SendFox 4 years. And there are a couple users, actually more than a couple, probably a few hundred at this point, who have saved over $700 in MailChimp fees by switching from MailChimp to SendFox. So that's why we never really discount further. It's incredibly uncommon that we do that. And I'm just happy to bring them to an everyday steal price.
No, I'm sorry. That is a steal for what you're getting with SendFox and TidyCal, how you can set up so much. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we go that you want to pump up for the listeners from AppSumo?
Totally. I do want to just emphasize, because I do think there are really cool ways for podcasters to get going with Originals products, and even to think about how to grow in general. So remember, and I think it's really important to remind ourselves that tools are mechanisms, right, for aiding in growth. What we really want to be clear on are what are our goals and why we do the things we do. So, for example, my encouragement to everyone listening, whether you run a podcast or you're tuning in and you have a different type of content business or other business, is you get very clear on what your metric of success is. Maybe for the year, or if you're smaller, we often do quarterly planning or even monthly planning. And then every tool you buy, including Originals, should be a mechanism to help towards that goal. So, for example, if you want 100 or 200 listeners by the end of Q2 to your podcast, you could use Sleep Bio, for example, in your social media profile and tweet it out and do other social promotion for it to help push that number. But before anyone buys any Originals tools, and I hope many people on this chat do, if they haven't already, really think about what is clear and actionable as a goal that I can take. And then the products I buy or the actions I take accordingly should always be in service to that larger goal. I think that's really important. So don't buy tools just to buy tools to serve a larger need.
I think that should be reiterated to the next host who's going to be coming up. He has an obsession with getting your tools, not only for AppSumo, AppSumo Originals, but everything on the AppSumo marketplace, because you guys get some crazy deals. And I have no idea how you guys do it. But David, I can't thank you enough for coming in today and talking about Originals with us.
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to be here. And for everyone to check out appsumo.com, there is a section for Originals. My encouragement for podcasters would be to check out tidycal.com and sleekbio.com and potentially sendfox.com. I think those 3 are probably the most relevant tools for most podcasters, but we do have more. So feel free to check us out. And for this month, from today until the 15th of June, you get a free AppSumo Connect with any purchase you make. So this is as best of a time as any to potentially buy a product on AppSumo, including originals.
Thank you so much, David. I wish you the best, and maybe we'll check in a little later next year to see where you are with the AppSumo originals. Have a great day, and thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Would love to do that. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Chris, how do you do it? How do you get these amazing people to come connect? Like, you are the master connector, the master networker. I don't know. How do you do this?
Well, I think we were very lucky. I think, well, I was very lucky that I had the opportunity to work at AppSumo through a podcast interview. If I had not have interviewed Chris Chelsea from AppSumo, then I maybe wouldn't have had those connections to AppSumo. And, you know, it really does take one simple question. If you get a yes or if you get a no, then that's fine. But if you get a yes, go further into that relationship. See what you can. Yeah, it's really easy. I think once you're in momentum and you start a podcast, that's the best thing to do. Start a podcast and then start building relationships with your guests. And once you've built relationships with the guests, then you can have more conversations on supporting them with their projects or inviting them to events like this. But start with a podcast, build relationships with your guests. And yeah, it goes as far as do an interview-based podcast so that you have guests on your podcast, and then build strong relationships with them. So keep it simple. 2 steps: start a podcast, get guests, build relationships with those guests.
And of course, if you want help launching your podcast, you can always check out the podcastlaunchagency.com/accelerator, and you can use the code AppSumo or AppSumo to get how much are they getting off, Chris?
They get 15% off with AppSumo, or they can use Podbean, because Podbean also endorses the program.
There we go. And that brings the end to my part of the stream. We will be going over to our other colleague, Mike, who's I'm going to be interviewing on his stream. So if you are in the group, any one of the groups that we are on, the podcast launch community, the better method of daily audience growth, or even in grow your podcast. The next one's going to be starting shortly with our good man Mike Cav, the Average Show finance genius. Chris, thank you again for putting this off. Go sleep, because you have to get up in like 4 hours, and we need you there.
Yeah,
You're the only one who have access to the database, and so you need to let us know who wins. But ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go check out the other stream. It should be going to be somewhere in the event. I thank you very much for tuning in. I am Phil Better, the podcast mogul. He is the expert whisperer, Chris Cowden, who is a genius networking guy. Make sure you book a call with him to figure out how you can take your podcast or your network to the next level. I thank you all much and have a great day. Chris, how do I close this? Oh, there.
Yeah, that's what I struggled with before. See you in about 10 seconds.